So the FACEIT Playoffs happened, qualification for the Esports World Cup, and it all kicked off 2 weeks ago on Friday, and it's fair to say nobody knew.
Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you not teach FACEIT a lesson about the power of promotion? Like, was that not one of your business seminars you gave them when they were trying to advertise people to sign up for this league?
Yeah, I thought this was, like basically a fundamental building block that was taught in Twitter direct messages to some random FACEIT employee that reached out. But apparently, in trying to build an international successful esports league, they forgot to tweet anything about the event that was coming up. Maybe link to the stream that they'd hired talent to broadcast for. Just broadly tell anyone about the fact that the event was going to happen other than to DM the teams in the Discord.
I think my favorite London memory is when we were in Hawaii and that guy came up and said we'd both be his bitches in prison.
So weird. So it
feels like a good read. A very good read.
I mean, he was probably right. Oh,
yeah, he's probably right.
Let's keep it real, guys.
Can we beat Loaded?
Yeah, we could do a tier list to decide
it. Should we do tier list?
We'd be tempted.
We should do it. All right, so...
Time for another beer, Max.
God, you had that. Yeah, no, actually, good shot.
All right. Well, he finds a way to get through this.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 24 of Uncoachable. Now, our guest today has a nickname, and that nickname is the Thinker. He can solve a problem with any TP, any problem in the world, in-game, out-of-game, personal, emotional, political, anything he can solve with a TP.
Political.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Backbone, but did you not give yourself this nickname as well last year on London?
Yeah. You got to know what you are. There's nothing wrong with knowing your worth.
Do you think it stuck? Because I feel like it's mostly you who calls yourself.
I don't think it's stuck. I really don't think it's stuck. But I'll keep it going
around in certain circles. Like I wouldn't say that it hasn't stuck.
It's a niche one, Streets would know.
The streets would know, but maybe the average Reddit fan or Uncoachable subscriber wouldn't know until today.
Yeah,
that's what we do on Uncoachable. We get narratives. We get the people finding out. So from now on, you will be called the Thinker.
We can give the Thinker some legs.
Well, I thought on the topic of nicknames, I wonder if any of us had some good nicknames that either have fallen off or some nicknames they would like to give themselves to try and track.
I was always called just a beaver in school. That was my nickname, was Beaver, because I had my front teeth were quite
beavery.
So that was what they would try to bully me with at school. But then I just ran with it. I called my gamer tag, my first gamer tag was something Beaver. And then once you own it, then no one calls it anymore. So now people just call me racist, That's my new nickname.
That's the new one.
Yeah, I wasn't much a victim of bullying, so I didn't really have any degrading nicknames. People just called me Max. I don't know.
Nice flex.
Yeah,
let's show off.
It's an interesting nickname.
I feel like I've told this story a million times, but I guess to join the party, the nickname I got given, I'll tell people on the stream might already know the story, but it was my first day of psychology class in sixth form, so I would have been about 16. My first experience with my new psychology teacher, very first day of class, she asked a question. Some people put their hands up. I don't put my hands up. I don't have a fucking answer to this question. But she points to me anyway and says, "What do you think, blowjob lips?" And, well, sometimes you are what you are, right? Yeah. I mean, the most surprising thing about that story is that the nickname didn't actually stick. Much like the Thinker, it didn't really follow me around or something. So
well, now we can platform it.
The Thinker, the blowjob lips, Beaver, and Max.
Get into X's chat. What's up, blowjob lips?
How it gets that quite a lot.
It's finally catching on after what would be 16 years. Half my life was clear. We're re-entering the blowjob lips era, and there was a bit of a delay, but it's caught on.
16 years.
Yeah. So that's enough dating me. Let's talk about something current that we've all experienced at the same time. The FACEIT Playoffs happened over these last 2 weekends. We've not recorded since they started, so there's a lot of it for us to catch up on. But I feel like the best place to start is that some people watching this probably didn't know they were on because it wasn't very well promoted. So the FACEIT Playoffs happened, qualification for the Esports World Cup, and it all kicked off 2 weeks ago on Friday, and it's fair to say nobody knew.
Max, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you not teach FACEIT a lesson about the power of promotion? Like, was that not one of your business seminars you gave them when they were trying to advertise people to sign up for this fucking league?
Yeah, I thought this was, basically a fundamental building block that was taught in Twitter direct messages to some random FACEIT employee that reached out. But apparently, in trying to build an international successful esports league, they forgot to tweet anything about the event that was coming up. Maybe link to the stream that they'd hired talent to broadcast for. Just broadly tell anyone about the fact that the event was going to happen, other than to DM the teams in the Discord. But there's always next season, right? Like there's a professional consultant line somewhere in there, and I feel like I could pick that up. I feel like if I started working for FACEIT, I could make a packet revolutionizing the broadcast.
I mean, I swear for the first week, like the mainstream only had like 200-300 viewers the entire weekend,
less
right?
Than 500.
Xavier was gapping them every single day.
X was like 2x, right?
I was really on my Tarek nose opening. It took him until the third day to overtake me off a broadcast. So I had my Tarek arc for a little bit, but they finally pipped me at the post after 3 days of hiring an entire production studio and casters.
It's because they had jobs, bro.
If the people at Blizzard knew that you were gapping the main broadcast, they were so mad because we tried to blacklist him, but he's bigger than the stream, like
without drops too. He's doing it without drops.
Because that's the weird thing as well. Because it wasn't a throwaway broadcast, right? It wasn't just like, oh look, we're not going to spend any money. It's only the qualifiers. The main money will go into the Esports World Cup and all of this. They hired the entire OWCS broadcast for studio. I mean, they did swap Zoe from one side of a desk to the other, so you might not have noticed it was the same studio, but it was the same
save
studio.
some money on that one.
Yeah.
So they clearly invested.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right, like the prize pool for these FACEIT leagues is like, if I was to describe it in one word, it would probably be cummy, Like it's not like when we won the FACEIT league, we weren't exactly rolling in big money, and it felt like, I guess like if you consider like the day rates of like the establishment, the observers, the producers, all of this, I swear to fucking God, it actually cost more to run that broadcast for 6 days than was like, it has to be, it probably is actually, I think it probably fucking is more than the prize pool for the actual tournament. And it's actually like so funny that you spent all this money getting it and then you didn't even like remotely give any promotion to it. They just like roll up. I mean, Reinforced like 4 days before was like saying on Plat Chat, he was like, oh, I've got to go have a meeting about an unnamed broadcast. So they clearly knew for a few days, but like they weren't allowed to say it. And then they just decided you're not allowed to say it. And then we'll just never say it, to the point where.
Why are they organizing the talent a couple of days before, Why is it an unnamed broadcast 3 days before? Like,
no one knows this is happening
in itself, Like, I just don't understand how they can have all of this time to prepare for what's to come. It's like they have the dates of their tournament since forever. They know when EWC is coming since day dot. And still, 3 days before the playoffs start, they're having secret backdoor meetings with Johnny Reinforce to kind of, fucking find out who can put the 6 milligram tin in Jake's hands to get him over the line to show off. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a bit sus.
Well, the thing is, even if it took them a while to finalize the contracts and get everything sorted, they still know there's going to be a broadcast. You can announce we are going to broadcast this, talent announcement to come soon or something, right? Because if you announce the talent like a few days before, you can probably get away with it, right? As long as you know everyone.
The stream and
be
stuff
here,
too,
be here.
Yeah.
Be sure to follow this account. This is where all the action takes place. Because it was a 7 week, 7 weeks of round robin, like leading up to this, maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah, but they had no broadcast there, so they couldn't possibly discuss broadcast during that time.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the sad thing is, if you think about it logically, like a hardworking coach like myself who grinded hard, won the FACEIT League, Jake is almost certainly like 2x the amount of money he made from the FACEIT League than me, and he didn't even play in it. So I feel that if you want to right the wrongs and not let the establishment keep taking all of our working class money, you need to subscribe to the Uncoachable Patreon. It feels like there is no other way to equalize the odds, like to help people like me earn more money than people like Jake. So, the link is down below.
Yeah, no, genuinely, if there's a spitting image of the working class right here, it's Chris Tieffer, begging for money so that he can, eventually overtake charismatic Jake on the broadcast in annual earnings, or at least monthly.
His
Maybe we can
investments,
do a
I'm
month.
probably just miles behind him. He's probably got so much money.
You're never going to catch up, mate. He's established generational wealth, and we're not even considering the fact that he grew up in fucking California. So it's over for you, mate.
But we can try, guys. We can try.
Yeah, no, we got a big bridge to gap is basically all we're hearing here,
Yeah.
fellas. But you know what? There's no gap too large for the Uncoachable subscribers. So get on that.
Power of the people should not be underestimated.
Let's not advertise too heavily in the first 10 minutes of the episode, fellas.
Got to keep the viewer attention.
Well, on the topic of money, there was also a lot of discussion about the prize pool, because not so much about the total of the prize pool, because I think it's a qualifier for a bigger event, right? And the bigger event has a bigger prize pool. But there was a lot of discussion about how it was distributed, because stereotypically, first place gets the most, then second gets the second most, then third gets the third most, and you understand the pattern. But this one redistributed it, so fourth place actually got more money on the basis that it didn't have qualification. It was a little bit more complicated in Europe or EMEA because of ENTS and SSG already having qualification, so they had a few different variations. But it was the same kind of idea, right? Now, ultimately, there would be some kind of more compensation for coming fourth than third on the basis that you'd miss out on the Esports World Cup spot. And that seemed to rile up, I think, a lot of the teams, maybe more so in North America and EMEA particularly, were more outspoken about it. But
was there anyone outspoken about this other than Kaluj? Did I miss something?
I think probably
not like super public. I think Seeker complained about it on stream as well. Ariel complained about it as well. But
I can see why Ariel would complain about it.
He has bigger problems, I think, to deal with now in the prize money. But I think I can see some sentiments of like it's like an overcomplication, I think. Like if it was just the other way around, I don't think anyone would have any problem either. Like the better you do, the more money you win, and you win opportunities to get more money. I feel like that's actually how most tournaments work. There's sort of artificial.
Kind of, but if you consider the fact that third place is like a minimum 10K, like even if you go and lose everything, like obviously it means that you're not getting paid for like an extra realistically for like 3-4 months, right? But like effectively third place is minimum 10K. Like it's just a delayed 10K instead of like the 7K fourth gets, like, so I can kind of see why they did it, truthfully. Like you get more money by the end of the year if you finish third here, like even if you go straight home in Saudi, you get more money.
I also think that the FACEIT League isn't like some super short tournament, It's like the only reason realistically that people signed up to season 1 of the FACEIT League is because they knew that it was going to go to the Esports World Cup, not because they saw this colossal prize pool, Like I'm not saying that the money's worth nothing, but at the end of the day, like everyone signed up to FACEIT League to go to Saudi. So then at the end of it, to be like, oh, why is my prize going to Saudi and getting money? Why am I being forced onto an airplane to be paid to play at a tournament? It's like you're playing in a fucking qualifier for that tournament. What did you expect? Like what could you possibly ask for here? You just want more money. Like you're a dead video game. The bar is in the floor, mate. Come on.
I feel like the bigger issue isn't necessarily like this one, because I think the Esports World Cup made it worthwhile. It's like FACEIT Season 2, which is coming around the corner, is like I think the same, if not less, prize pool in Season 1 without like the 5-star hotel and event ticket to the biggest tournament in the game, like this is the real one where it's like, I think with the state of the prize pool for FACEIT Season 2, I heard through the little grapevines that some teams are considering not signing up anymore because they've made it, you play more games, you play best of 5, so it's going to be like longer, it's going to be more time consuming, and to get like such a low prize pool, even if you finish first place, I feel like that's like a bigger issue than the prize pool for Season 1.
Well, I think Kaluj will be wrapped, no? Because then he'll be able to come third and,
get money.
More money. Yeah.
And not have to get on a plane.
Exactly right.
Well, we've got one sign up in North America guaranteed then.
No, Kaluj will be there with Belgium.
Well, I guess the question from, say, an SSG perspective, would you have signed up for this tournament if it wasn't connected to the Esports World Cup qualification?
Probably, I think. Probably. I mean, I think it's just fun to play. Like, first place, we got, what, like 10K between us? So, I mean, Yeah, as long as you can like figure out how to play it without it interrupting your other stuff. It's not like we have like bigger tournaments to be playing at the same time, you know. Like there isn't like a turning down an opportunity. So maybe we're in a position where we can't turn down a grand.
I think the problem with the next tournament comes in the fact that because all the Swiss stage games are going to be first to three, it's going to be a lot harder to fit these games in without fucking over scrims, right? Like it was so common in this Swiss stage, so we just do it in the hour block between scrims, but like you could do even like the ENTs or the VP or the TM games during the hour because at most it's 3 maps. But now if you can possibly go into 5, you can't really fit all 5 maps in that hour, so you're left in like a weird spot of where and like what day and when you want to play the games.
Is some of the problem the quality? Because both EMEA and North America had 16 teams in their master division, but the top 16 teams in each region means you get a huge spectrum of skill between the top and bottom teams. So now, in reality, how many of you would have played 15 games in the round robin qualification? How many of those were like good games? 4?
3?
Less?
I didn't include PEPS as a good game.
You would say only 3 then.
There should really be like a separate tier. Like it should only be 8 or maybe even like 10 teams in the very top. But like even if you do 8 teams, like half the games are going to be like stomps of like, you know, us and ENTs just kicking down on people.
I mean that's every region to an extent.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's always going to be the top.
But at least if it's only 8 teams, you don't have to kick as many, you know, 9-to-5ers. Like, and you can just get on with your life.
Is this going to be 15 best of 5s?
12, I think. There's 12 teams next season.
Okay.
Right.
So they've lessened the teams.
Better.
Yeah, I feel like the best of 5s is too much, you know. Like I think
for a Swiss stage, I don't think best of 5s is good at all.
I mean, it's just Swiss. Who fucking cares? Like, it's just such an irrelevant. Yeah, I'm a Swiss hater. Chris thinks that it's like genuinely the heart and soul of every tournament is the Swiss stage.
I mean, where else is Chris going to play against me, Tron?
I mean, you like throw playoff bracket games versus the French just so you can turn it around later on. Like, I don't know, you're such a Swiss head for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I never lose in Swiss, but I lose like winners bracket. That's okay. Fuck it. That's
You know what they should do? They should do it so the top 4 teams of each tournament insta qualify to the late stage of the next one, and then have like the next 8 teams play for the other 4 slots in the double LN bracket.
They're doing that in OWCS, right? Like I think next time it'll
OWCS format.
Wow. It's a better format, I think.
Unfortunately,
big up
like
OWCS, incredible formatting.
Why do SSG, ENTs, and Toronto have to go and stomp on all these poor people for like 12 weeks or 6 weeks? But like, why has it got to happen?
Is the problem also then not partly the length of the format, right? Like, would you feel as bad if it was just like a couple of days, or like it was just like a top 8 tournament over a weekend or something? Because that's the ultimate problem, right? Is more about like, if you want there to be more money or more stakes, it needs to be popular and therefore financially viable. But is a 6-week round robin with 30 games, of which most of them are just, were 2-0s, now they're going to be 3-0s. Is there much like, how do you sell that product, you know?
The problem with what we're discussing now is I think that we're thinking of it as like a competitive tournament, whereas what FACEIT wanted it to be is for people, their money FACEIT makes is from people signing up to play in like the other divisions. And what you want if you like sign up and actually have to pay money is you actually want to play games, right? Like they would hate a system where they didn't actually get like, they want 16 weeks of games because they're paying for like organized competition in a league. So like assuming that you want the Masters division to meet the same as like the other divisions, then you kind of have to mirror it. That's like, what we want is like a tournament which like is like showcases like the best teams, like the most competitively pleasing. They want a format which
encourages signups.
Gold Andy to get in, you know, and play his 16 games once a week. And I guess that's like the difficulty. Obviously thanks to Untold, like the signups were actually passable for season 1, but it's possible if they'll forget to tell Flats to advertise it this time. So we'll see if season 2 hits the same mark, you know.
I think it'll be interesting
for the
to see.
audio-only listeners, no, don't worry. Alpha can add it in post. You know, he can do like a little bit of
like an audio description of what's happening in the podcast. Everyone did the Flats pog.
I'm so sorry, Jamie.
I think it'll be interesting to see what teams and how many teams don't sign up to FACEIT too. Because I mean, like Chris said, grapevine saying that some teams won't. Whether or not that's actually true, like it feels like the type of thing that teams will say they won't, but then it'll come around and be like, yeah, might as well.
I guess the argument is like, what else are you going to do with your time?
Yeah, no, it's like these people are all fucking nerds, dude. They're gonna sign up and they're gonna play. They could scrim for no money, or they could play Swiss for money. Like, it's a no-brainer.
So I guess is it more just the fact that in a weird way, the qualification for the Esports World Cup has actually just made this particular playoffs way more important than any other FACEIT playoffs has the potential to be.
For sure, unless you're
Kalush.
Yeah, unless Kalush and this was the worst possible for that.
I mean, unless they somehow
5-star hotel and the opportunity to actually compete at the game. You know what? I think the problem with Kalush is I feel like Gator has the same condition. I think they haven't realized that competing in professional Overwatch isn't mandatory. I think that's what they haven't quite figured out yet. Is they're still under the impression that they have to be here. I don't understand why they're always like flexing that it's so much easier to make money in other esports or in other jobs, but they're still here. Imagine you worked at McDonald's and one of your coworkers was like, "Fucking hell, McDonald's is absolutely shit. Like, so easy to just go out and make millions, like doing business. It's like, it's so easy." And it's like, why aren't you fucking doing it, bro? Why are you still out here scrimming every day? I don't really understand why these guys are still. Kaluj has retired like 14 times, but when you ask him, he hates Overwatch so much. It's like, well, yeah, the 13th retirement, you could have just stuck to that one if you hate it so much.
I was watching the Inferior podcast a bit yesterday, the old Plat of Chat, and Reinforce said that when they did like player fun facts or something, Kaluj's fun fact was that he doesn't play the game anymore. And he passed that off as his fun fact about him as a player for broadcast. That he doesn't play the game anymore.
I think EMEA are so cool because they don't care about Overwatch. It's actually so fucking cool. Like, unlike us, like cringe lords that actually try. The cool kids.
I don't think this is. I don't think this is just an M80 thing, though. I think that like a big portion of like the old guard scene is in that state. Where like people are just like one by one checking out and playing less and giving up, and it's like all of these dudes that are like in their mid-20s and realizing that maybe the playing video games for 16 hours a day thing, it's like it's just not doable for them anymore. Or maybe even their early 20s. People are pretty young to do that all the time. But it's like before you were massively rewarded for full time in the gaming, you could do that until you were 25. Until you were like literally Dante age, you could do that because you were getting so much Overwatch League money. But now it's like if you're like 23 and you're still doing this, it's like, you got to get help, bro. You got to get the fuck out of here. Like if you're not winning absolutely everything all the time internationally, it's like it's just not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
I
don't know if this is the appropriate time to segue like into NA talk because it goes against the schedule. But fuck the schedule, But I do like. I feel like
this
it's
guy's
actually
anti any form of structure or establishment.
Fuck the establishment.
But it's like I'm looking at the run of show right now. What a jump! Like.
I mean, fuck it, dude. We don't abide by the rules on Uncoachable, Like I don't know. I feel like the biggest problem.
Bad boy arc.
The biggest fucking problem is that M80 talk about how much they fucking hate Overwatch, talk about how they never scrim, and then still regularly finish second. That's the fucking issue. Is one of these teams that are getting salaried like Shock or TSM need to fucking kill M80 because it's so bad for NA that this team can actually yeah, we fucking hate Overwatch, we don't play it, and then still just shit on the other teams. Like I said, maybe you should do it, Max. You should fucking kick Luminosity up, like take M80 out. Like I don't know.
I mean, we've got the same issue as many of these other teams. Either these teams just have they have a base level of talent where it's like the players. I think you give a lot of these players on these teams that are losing to M80 another year, and they would never lose to M80 ever again. You know what I mean? Like they would never lose to the players on M80 right now. But right now, there's just like a situation in the NA scene where the old talent is better than the young talent, but so much of the old talent has given up. So you're actively witnessing the changing of the guard. And M80 is like an exception to that, where it's like M80 has good old talent, but they also consistently have like real peak players on their roster. It's like they had Pelican and they had Happy as imports to just boost the fuck out of them. And then as soon as those guys leave, they get Treon, like they get the best player in North America on there straight away. So M80 has always had these like real superstar North American players or Korean players on the roster to make them look really strong. But I think a big issue across a lot of these teams is just that it's like it's really good players that have completely given up. That in Kaluja's words, or like they've proudly given up on playing the game, and they're just riding on their former success in order to maintain what they're doing now to keep earning whatever money that they do. But I mean, there's actually like a fair bit of young talent in North America. It's just not there yet, and it's maybe it's not like not everyone that's like a 17-year-old playing DPS right now is a Kevster. Maybe Scissors isn't the next Tev or the next Psycho or whoever our next reference standard is. But at the end of the day, like I think if you give a lot of these players another year, because they actually play the fucking game, they will surpass the people that are there now. And then a team like M80 will not last. A team that's just riding on the coattails of former success, it can't live forever. If you don't keep grinding in this game, you get left behind really quick. You turn into Fletter. Tank variant, not yeah.
Well, because I think sometimes because there's been a lot of talk about North America in general and the North American culture or attitude, but does this really, is it actually an M80 isolated issue? Because I did originally have a problem with the students of the game, because I think there was one of the FACEIT games where they were playing Toronto, they lose like a semi-competitive first map, whatever you want to call it, then they just Ryan mirror on Hollywood. And then I'm like, why are you just conceding and going on Ryan mirror, like, we'll get to PEPS later, but PEPS would never do that, right? PEPS would keep trying to play the comp no matter how bad the patch is for them or whatever, But I remember thinking the same about students of the game. Is like, if you're one of these like 3rd, 4th, 5th shooting for top 3 teams, you have to be willing to at least play Toronto and see how close you can come, even if you can't come that close. But also that was actually quite a while ago now, and I feel like, do NRG and Shock, not NRG and Shock, NRG and Timeless, like Seeker's team, are they not actually what Hunter's talking about in terms of like the upcoming talent, the people who are still working really hard and will eventually overtake M80? So is this an M80 isolated problem, or is it more of a North America problem?
I don't even know if it's like just an exclusively North American problem. I think it's just what happens when there's teams like as dominant as like Toronto are in that region, like, because I remember even when, like, it's a little throwback here for you, X, but when BH was like in contenders just winning everything, like there were so many teams that just wouldn't try against BH, and they'd be good, like they'd even be good enough to maybe take a map or 2 off of them in the right metas, right? But they'd load in, they'd see these players, they'd be like, oh, they win everything, we can't fucking do it, let's just troll, And like I really think that's what happens when you watch some of these teams play Toronto, at least, like I don't know, because I think for sure that NRG Shock are probably the teams to come up and be able to beat M80, like Hunter said, right? But sometimes they do things that are just so stupid that I feel like they only do because they think the other team is better than them, I don't understand it. Like, there needs to be the level of delusion that you can always win. Like, you can't just believe looking at the names in the lobby that you've already lost, or else it's already over.
Are you guys believers that like NA culture is shit theory that they have in League of Legends? Because I feel like the way that M80 guys like effectively tweet that it's cool that they don't try is kind of like a sign of like a mindset, maybe, like that. It's the same stuff that you're talking about. Like, it's, I think for some of these NA players, maybe it's like extremely like generalizing of North America in general. Like, maybe the fact that when they go against the Toronto that they don't try is actually like a similar mindset. Like, like it wouldn't be cool if we tried our best and lost. So it's better to just like troll and like look like we don't give a fuck,
I don't think these things are related, personally.
Yeah,
I think that the whole like being given up, like having given up and talking about how you don't try anymore and stuff like that, I think it's just like a result of like a big friend group in North America that all kind of shares the same viewpoint and circle jerk about the same feeling, like it's just a bunch of friends that have given up on the game and like encourage each other to give up on the game, to not care and stuff like that, like they make it cool for one another, you know what I mean? Whereas students of the game, they're like completely, NRG Shock, they're like completely separate from that group socially. I think there's like no connection between one and the other. And I'd say that, them giving up versus Toronto, that's more just a symptom of the fact that nobody in North America really feels like they can beat Toronto. You know what I mean?
Do you guys maybe know more than me, but correct me if I'm wrong. Do you not get the feeling sometimes when you watch like NRG Shock's like stream and stuff and the way that they talk to each other and the way that they act. Like these guys aren't like genuinely like taking it seriously as like PEPS maybe being like the example of Europe. Because like PEPS, like I think are pretty fucking sweaty, right? Like they're really, really trying like at Overwatch. Whereas I know some of the stuff that NRG do, maybe I'm doing them a disservice by saying they're not trying, but I feel like the attitude and the culture and the way that that team operates, they're still having like a little bit more like fun. Don't like give it like 100%. You think that's fair?
That's because they've got a streamer, they've got Rack Attack, and it's actually because they've got a streamer, because they've got Cal, and they haven't got what's his name, Benjamin Best at the helm to keep everything in line. But genuinely, I mean, that's just like it's like a team culture difference, but I don't think it's like a regional difference, you know? Like nobody out here, I refuse to concede that we're getting gapped by the French in any way. I'll claim North America for the sake of this argument. It's like, but you know, like I think it's like a team structure thing, you know. Like they've got Ben at the helm, telling them, you know, saying something passionate in French. Like he learned a lot from his time with Get Amazed. You know, Get Amazed taught him all he knew about how to like rally the troops. And now Ben is rallying the troops too. Maybe he just like prints out a picture of himself and mails it to each of the players.
It would work.
It's the photo of him with the French president, you know? He was one of the people that met him, right? Send that around, motivate the troops.
I would believe that.
I think like the idea of not trying is maybe the wrong word, because I think they are putting in effort, but there's just not the same seriousness as the impression I get from teams like Virtus Pro and PEPS.
Yeah. But like, can I not make the argument that in Overwatch, the Koreans sadly are the best, but then Europeans are clearly better than the Americans, and there's like that hierarchy. And if I go in League of Legends, I think it's the exact same thing, right? It has been, right? Like these like Koreans, and I guess in League of Legends there's like a massive Chinese scene. These guys seem like untouchable, but then it feels like most of the time Europe is like that like step ahead of NA. I don't know if like, I guess Valorant is the exception to the rule because people say NA is like the best at Valorant, but I literally don't know anything about Valorant to dispute it. But even like CSGO, right? Like Europe's always been better than NA. Is there not? I mean, there has to be a reason that in most games where it's like truly multinational, the Koreans do the best, but then Europeans do the second best and Americans do the third best.
I think it's because Koreans must have some sort of massive cultural gap, and then the Europeans just have a bigger population size. Like, that's got to be it, you know? Like,
you don't buy Europe culture better than NA culture. You can't.
I would love to sell that, but I mean, I don't know how much I've actually experienced that in person, to be perfectly honest. You know, having worked with with a range of like American and European players, I feel like, you know, the only ones that really like stand out culturally are like the Korean ones. Whereas I feel like the American and the Europeans, there's cultural issues across the board. Although I love to rag on Americans, so you know, maybe we can say that there's like a 5% gap between European and American. It's like,
I'll take
let's put the Americans at the bottom of this tier list. I love tier lists. I think it's probably like more a function of population size at that point, you know. Whereas the Koreans, like, they're able to surpass their population size issue because they're so culturally superior in the art of perfecting professional video gaming.
Did you hear you probably didn't watch Plat Chat, Max, I'm imagining, but did you see Gator's take on why the Korean difference between like American players and Korean players?
That's probably something really fucking stupid. Let's hear it.
Do you want to hear it? It's a fucking good one. I love this. Okay, so he thinks that the difference is if you're a kid that like gives up on school to play everything in video games, in America, your parents are quite like, they don't support it. They push you to go to school. Whereas in Korea, because esports is so accepted, your parents are quite happy of you to drop out of school to play video games full time. What do you think about that?
I think it's like irrelevant to the parenting. I think these dudes in like Korea and America both, you know, they drop out of school to play video games. I think the difference is in Korea, when you do that, the risk you're taking and the severity of that undertaking is like 100 times more, you know? Like you're actually potentially, you know, you're altering the trajectory of your life permanently with like, you know, this sacrifice of a formal education for like basically it changes everything for you as a Korean, right? Like if you don't go through the formal education system, go through to the equivalent of year 12 and finish, you're never going to be afforded tertiary education. You know, like there's so many jobs that you're permanently closing the door on yourself for. Whereas in the West, you know, you do that and it's like, fuck it, dude, just be a mature age student and do whatever you want when you're 30 instead of 25. But I think that like that's the difference in pressure, you know, for a Korean player that drops out of school. It's like if you don't take it seriously, it's like have fun being homeless, buddy. Like I don't know, it's not so much about supportive parents, you know.
I also think that what I was hoping you were going to say is that if you think that Korean parents are more supportive of dropping out of school to go to video games than American parents, I think you are so unbelievably misguided in the cultures. Like,
I just thought it was like, what do the parents have to do with this? Like, the kids leave home and disappear from their families forever. It's like you go and live with the O2 boss. You go and live with some like weird 40-year-old man that houses a bunch of children. What do parents have to do with that?
I don't know. I just feel like actually the Korean parents will fucking hate you playing video games. Like, I think American and Western society is way more accepting of like follow your dreams. You know, I feel like actually like it has to be the opposite of like if you like Asian parents.
I mean, that's
like,
not. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Is some of it because one argument I've seen sort of put around is that it's kind of financial as well, because the cost of living in America generally is higher than say somewhere even like the UK. I mean, especially other parts of Europe as well. So that the money now available is actually just shit money, especially for I think for a lot of the players who have gone from like the golden years of Overwatch League salary, full expenses, all of this, to essentially being asked to do the same work for way less reward and way less comfort, especially respective to the cost of living where they live.
I think it has to be true, actually. Like, I think that bit's like true for sure. America's like way. To be fair, I think I would argue that Seoul is fucking expensive, but I think generally speaking, like, yeah, like Europe, especially maybe like if the Koreans can stay at home or something, or maybe get sponsored by Falcons where there is infinite money, then they might be okay. But yeah, I think that for sure that's true. Like I feel like when I like criticize like Gator and Kaluge, I don't criticize the idea that like they shouldn't be in Overwatch anymore because it like financially doesn't make sense. I feel like that is like a really reasonable take from them. I just criticize when they parrot that so much and then are still fucking here, you know? Like I don't get like both, you know?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like you got to pick a side, you know? You got to be getting something out of this in order to still be here. You can't just like do 100% of the complaining, never get like any other benefit, and then still be doing it. It's like there's just got to be some like aggressive cognitive dissonance at that point, you know? Or like an existential crisis that, you know, like nobody, not even God, will be able to answer for you. Because it's like if you're still doing this shit and you're actually getting no benefit whatsoever and like you're full timing it, it's just like what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Well,
just shut up or leave, surely. No, that's got to be like the crux of it. Like either stop complaining or actually just follow through for once.
Because the go-to reasons that people would still use is like, well, I think I'd enjoy this way more than the generic office job, even if it's not as financially rewarding. Or there's no way I can get the experience of going to a LAN and playing on stage if I go and work for a fucking Bobby office or whatever.
Dude, these people are earning like 15K. Yeah, they're so far below the poverty line.
See, I don't know. There needs to be something in it. Maybe they just maybe complaining is their real passion, and they worry if they go to an office job, everything will be too okay. It'll be like. It'll be not great, but it won't be like get on Twitter and have a go about it bad, you know?
Maybe that's what they're doing. They're monetizing their complaining. Get some Twitter blue, get the impressions up.
It's a side hustle.
Yeah, it's a side hustle. So they're actually above the poverty line whilst they're playing. They're actually the big brains. We're the fucking idiots.
Fuck.
I can see it.
Well, because I guess the natural follow-on to this as well, because the most egregious example is the North American playoffs in FACEIT. Because Timeless and M80 had a very non-serious game, and that's super understandable. I think, no disrespect to Urzo, a lot of time for Urzo, but wasn't up to scratch, okay? Not Urzo's fault, put another last minute, give him, maybe he falls into that category Max was talking about, where give him a year and maybe he'll surpass Kaluge, but not right now.
Just gapping Kaluge first round of Oasis, I'm not going to lie. First round, he was gapping him.
But, you know, give him time, they'll make up the gap. But that's okay, that is what it is. External situation, all of this. But then it becomes to M80 Toronto, the classic North American clash. And M80 go to immediate. Well, actually, first map was okay, right? First map was okay and competitive. And then we just get like a Zarya Lucio Mercy comp. And the towel is well and truly thrown in for this best of 7 grand finals. Which just feels like such an indictment really of everything. And it just feels like I'm watching it. I mean, like a few of the SSG guys were on as well. And it just feels like, what's even the point? It feels like such an indictment of the esport.
I mean, I'm just really glad, I'm really glad that they
region.
made an exception for those guys. That they let that organization pretend that their players were all retiring when they weren't, so that then they could fucking back their roster, so then they could just troll games on broadcast. You know, like just shitty tournament organizers and fucking Americans clashing together to make the perfect storm. To be honest, unbelievable.
I feel like to parrot what Chris said earlier, like if you're fucking NRG and time, obviously maybe not timeless looking at this, like I'd be so pissed if I was on NRG and I'm watching MA to get to the finals and just troll the entire time. Like it's just embarrassing actually. Like I felt like there was like similar vibes. Like you remember back during BH being dominant, like even with Obey were trying, but they were always like trolling, you know? It was just like a fucking troll team. Like obviously they were still trying, but they were very like shit talky trolly. Even like being behind those guys felt shit, right? And that was with a team that was actually, you know, trying a little bit. These guys are literally just showing up. Spectre's saying he wants to go eat food. Can we get 4-0'd quickly? Like,
I mean, it's just mad. Like the fact that roster is like always importing to win as well. You know, like Tree, he's not an import. That's fair enough. The fact that M80 is always winning off the fact that they're just fucking importing when nobody else is, basically. And then they just troll the matches. And then they complain about this shit. Like they complain about the fact that they won the matches and they're not getting paid more for it. It's like,
what's the outcome that would make them happy?
Out of this world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Quitting the game and then actually staying quit. I don't know. Another thing that will not happen.
Yeah.
Well, because it's also a financial domination, right? Like you think like Tree is a local prospect, but he's going to go where the money is, right? Because that's a reward for, in theory, being one of the best players in your region. But
dude, you got to chase that fucking $20 a month. Like that's the new standard.
So they just have a monopoly on all of that, and everyone else is chasing.
You think EMEA even exists after the World Cup? Don't you think that there's like a chance that it just all goes away, like the org goes away, like the players go away? Like,
if you're that org owner with all the shit that's happened with that team this year, like all the fucking bad publicity this team is getting your brand, I feel like you're getting rid of them after World Cup. I'm not wishing that on them.
Honestly, EMEA's owners should probably tell. Yeah, I know you guys aren't trying, but I'd really appreciate if you didn't fucking tweet 24/7 that you fucking hate the game. I mean, we're paying you to do this. You know,
4-0'd in the official or something. Yeah. Can you just like keep that to yourself for like the last few maps?
No hate to Gator or anything, because I mean, at the end of the day, he has come second to the better import team every time that it matters. So you know, like I feel like he's more or less achieved his mission organizationally. But like from the org owner standpoint, it's like, you know, I think Gator was like an unusual choice for like a picking up a guy to build your team. I don't really know who else there would have been, just because it was like, you know, Gator, like in the previous year, he'd fumbled Atlanta Reign, like they'd come 8th, and then he'd fumbled US World Cup and they'd come 8th again. And it's like, you know who I'm going to build to make my winning North American roster? Like the guy that keeps coming 8th for some reason. Like
he's coming second now. He's improving.
Yeah, that's just because fucking 3 through 7 all died, mate. Like,
you can only beat what's in front of you.
Yeah, no, eyes on.
Is one of the knock-on effects of all of this that Toronto just get screwed as well? Because obviously people very critical of Toronto after the Dallas Major, probably pretty fairly so given their resources and their investment and their time together and all of this. But their region's just fucked, right? Like how can they improve? They're just kind of relying on SSG and ENTS. So they're kind of stuck.
I think you're right. I actually reviewed the games like for some reason because I guess I was a fucking idiot because I hadn't seen the last few games of the EMEA Toronto, so I was under the impression that maybe there was like something worth watching. But I reviewed it, and I actually think that, like, in my opinion, my personal coaching opinion, like in that FACEIT finals, and I will say because this is the truth. A lot of the teams that were already qualified didn't try 100% of this tournament. I know FD God can't fucking believe it's possible that we weren't trying against his team until the fucking winners bracket. But I looked at Toronto's meta read and I was like, fucking hell. Like, actually, I feel like you guys are like playing like into counter comps. I mean, in my opinion, watching it, I know you can't see the level of Overwatch, but when I was seeing the level of Overwatch, MAD was so fucking bad. Like, even on the map they were trying where it was close, Kaluch literally gave flip. Like, you just fucking, like, Winston would look at him and he'd fucking run to the back of the map and just give flip. Like, they didn't hold any space a single time. And it's like, okay, yeah, because they don't fucking scrim or review. And they have, like, Mauga was literally just fucking getting, like, 5 pins before he was on point. It's like, well, you probably need to apply some pressure as a Sigma. But, like, I was looking at it, I was like, fucking hell, like, I actually feel like Toronto are getting to get like gaslit into being able to play comps, which like will definitely not work against like a real team. And I heard that Toronto are now starting to scrim earlier blocks so they can get like both EU blocks. I think Toronto are just going to scrim EU teams only now. But even that's so bad for practice because every scrim on 110, 20 ping is actually fucking horrible, by the way. Like that's actually like a really, really, because over time it's going to fuck all of your muscle memory. Like if you actually do play on 120 ping permanently. So I actually think Toronto's in like a really, really tough situation in terms of they'll always be the best in NA, but they're going to get scrim bubbled. I was actually thinking this today, maybe it's a fucking outrageous take, but like Toronto should actually move their players to like fucking Spain or wherever. Like who's the Toronto owner? Koi Esports or something like that. Like they have like the league that it's one of those. Anyway, they should fucking move to Europe and just scrim on low ping in Europe and they just play the matches on ping and they'll probably still fucking win America like on 120 ping, you know. But I don't know. I actually feel like Toronto it's actually such a rough situation for them.
It's also bad for the rest of America as well, right? Like for the Timeless and the NRGs who want to try and catch, and suddenly Toronto don't really want to scrim them because it's not worth their time, then they just get left outside of that sort of Toronto to upgrade and learn off.
Bear in mind, though, I mean, like, you know, Toronto was already the last place team before MAD has disappeared into the ether, you know? Like, they already went to the international LAN and came last, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, MAD did better than Toronto at LAN. They're not even the best NA team at LAN.
You're being like, woe is Toronto, you know, like for them, they're going to get scrim bubbled. I mean, it's like they already, like they had a marginally more competitive region with MAD in it, and they still wound up coming last somehow, you know, through like a miracle of Christ in their own ability. So at the end of the day, like, there's like fucking 10, how many competitive teams are there in the world? You know, there's like two Korean teams, 2 European teams, half an American team. Is that it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably you could argue more Korean teams, I'm guessing, right? Like, I think.
You know, they're hidden in the back, though, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Those
Korean
teams
teams
come out to play once a year.
Yeah, no, those Korean teams, like, they don't get slots, so they don't count.
I mean, isn't the Korean team that finished third, I forget, wasn't it FTG or whatever it was at the time before they got picked up, weren't they like the only people to beat Crazy Raccoons like during the last stage or whatever of Korean thingy? So maybe there's 3 Korean teams max. If they can beat the Dallas champs.
Didn't Yeti?
Yeti took a game to it.
Yeti now.
Yeah, they did. That's 4 then.
Yeah,
we got so many Korean teams all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, but they don't get enough slots for it to matter, mate. So settle down.
Yeah.
Settle down.
But that's why like this MAD destruction stuff like makes like the scrim bubble problem even worse, you know. Like I think Europe's in like a decent spot right now where I feel like the quality of Europe, I think we now have like a big 5 maybe it's like a big 2 and then like
big 5.
Maybe it's like a really big 2 and a big 5 or something like that. But I actually think that like I think if you were to do like, in my opinion, if you were to do a Western power rankings, I think you would have like Toronto and then 5 European teams in your top 6, you know? Like that's where I feel like my feeling, I mean, I'm not that high on PEPS personally, obviously, but I think even I'd probably be taking PEPS over Timeless and Shock. I don't know, I don't know. We'll maybe get it to it when we actually do the fucking tier list. I don't know. But I don't know. It feels like America is somehow like even worse off than it was. And it was already it felt pretty fucked.
It's just hard when you don't have actual good people to play against. Like you just don't get. Like I mean, it's how we ended up running Sig everywhere during Dallas. You know, because everyone's trying to play Mauga, but no one's good enough at Mauga yet to not lose to the Sigma.
Yeah.
So then we go in thinking that it's just better.
What I don't really understand is like I saw a tweet maybe earlier in the week, maybe last week, where they were basically saying like, you know, looking at the decline in prize pools and looking at the decline in availability of money in Overwatch, you know, this means that NA will never be competitive again because, you know, there's no money in it anymore. So like the talent is never going to be developed again. But what I don't understand is like, why is this an NA only principle? You know, why aren't all 3 regions equally affected by this? Because there's no money in Korean Overwatch either. There's no money in European Overwatch either, right? Like, there's how many orgs are actually signed for European that are making like significant money? Is it all of the 5?
Yeah, but that's because of World Cup.
It's EWC.
Yeah,
like
I think
Kappa
VP
money, you know?
and GG, whatever they're called, PEPS wouldn't be signed if it wasn't like the EWC slots. I think
they are more money than us now. I think though, no, they're actually making like they got signed to decent ones comparatively to what the rest of the
Yeah,
Seems
those
to be
global
big.
organizations of
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Is-
shorter length.
Well,
Yeah.
in theory as well, was the opposite not true a lot of this time anyway? Like during the Overwatch League years, in theory, if any region was to benefit from that by having more talent available in the region, the best scrim bubble possible, was it not a lot of the NA talent? Was not a lot of, especially the later years of Overwatch League, a lot of those teams full of American players who maybe wouldn't have got a shot if it wasn't for the budget NA teams, or like a lot of the shock situations where they can only sign North American players to come in. In theory, the North American talent should have had an advantage, especially over a region like Europe or EMEA would have been the obvious exception. Maybe Korea, you can still argue there, like contenders was still very competitive and they had the APAC teams over there still. But in theory, North America should have been boosted all of these years,
Were they not,
especially the
though?
last couple of years.
They did have like a golden age of players come through. Like all the best NA players came through like at the same time. I feel like like all the AT people came through whilst OWL was happening, like whilst they were there scrimming them and everything.
But did any of these AT guys do anything ever?
No, but the game did swap.
Like, were they ever good?
It was literally. I think they were definitely 100% good at one point in time. I think it's probably delusional to pretend they're not, or that they
I've
weren't.
never seen it. I've never once seen them be good.
I'm not going to disagree with you and say that I think that they were.
I've never scrimmed them, so maybe their scrims are insane.
I mean, they were literally getting paid to scrim.
AT players.
Yeah, like during Overwatch 1 and stuff, right? Like they were good at Overwatch 1.
You know, I mean, that team was like insanely good at particular metas, you know? Anytime Kaluj could pick Sig, anytime Speed could pick Doom or Echo, that team was really good. Like, it was really, really good.
Yeah, maybe
But that
always
team wouldn't have been
start
as good
in
if
their
they
glory
were like in EU unable to scrim the out teams in NA, surely, right? There's no way they'd have been as good. Like
I don't think that they were that good because of their scrim quality, to be honest. I think they were just good because of play. I think it was mostly because of player quality. Like they would load in and they would destroy those OWL teams like off rip, you know? That was like the source of the ego. It wasn't because they were like constantly scrimming the OWL teams, you know? Those guys were playing ranked for like 14 hours a day and then loading into the scrim and shitting on the Toronto Defiant or something and being like, wow, these people fucking suck. Because like there were so few teams in the league that had someone that could pick Echo or had someone that could pick Wrecking Ball or whatever it might have been for the particular meta. Kaluj is just better than like everyone in every single server at SIG, you know? Like there were all these different reasons. So like in a double shield meta where it was like double shield and Echo, it was like, oh yeah, you know, AT is going to be crazy at this, you know? Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like what is saying makes sense, you know? Like if there was a region which should be benefiting, like after Overwatch League died, it should have been NA, because so many NA players got the opportunity to be in the league, got to be in the good scrim bubble, got to like be in the good region, play on the good ranked servers. And I feel like the fact that we're like a year out from Overwatch League and NA is like everything's falling apart is actually fucking, I don't know, it's kind of fucked for them, you know? Because like they should, like Europe was the, like in theory, Europe was the most fucked, right? If you had to spend money on a visa, you'd always just sign a Korean over a European, because like if the costs are the same, the Koreans are 9 times out of 10 better. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what the diagnosis is. Maybe it is just fucking population gap. I guess maybe there's more people that play the European server than the North American one, like by multiple percentage.
I think also like it's because there were lots of these established American players and they all go into the new system and they all quit because the new system is shit, you know? Whereas if like you're a young up and comer where you know, maybe you had 1 year on a 50K contract or you never made it into the Overwatch League, you want to keep grinding, you have that reason to keep going. But NA was like sort of an overrepresented region, if anything, in Overwatch. So it actually had more of its talent pool was like already tapped, you know? There's like lots of org owners are American, everyone knows the American players, yada, yada, yada. So once the Overwatch League ends, they're like, oh wow, this new thing, this is dog shit. I'm going to quit right now because it's never ever going to get better. Whereas, you know, the poor Europeans living off
they were like so happy, like I suppose, right? Like if you're like Vestola is like an example, right? Like it's like just not quite good enough to get into the league. But
he was there.
But I mean, like the last like 2 years, I don't know, maybe Vestola is like not the perfect example, but there was like players that are now on like ENTs and I guess like VP and TM and stuff. This like new system favors them way more than it did, I guess. I guess that like there is a motivation difference there that makes sense.
I would think there's like a different tier, like because you could use Seeker as someone who got into the league, right? But clearly still seems as motivated ever to prove he wasn't just a Valiant standard player, but he can hang with the best. I think you can make a similar argument for people like Vestola, who did get into the league, but never really got to show, I can actually be a top team. Maybe you can even make the same argument for Shockwave, Like, I know he was on Philadelphia, but I don't think he ever really got he was ever the guy on Philadelphia or the main starter. So maybe there's that level of motivation there for a lot of these players, like hungry to fill the gap compared to the players who have maybe had it really good and are now just playing like what I imagine for them feels like a B tier version of the same game.
I mean,
or the same competition.
Do you remember when Dridro got cut for rack attack? It's got to be the worst lateral change of all time, you know? Like,
Dridro was actually so good at the game
Dridro
as well.
was fucking insane. Dridro
He
was so good.
He was comfortably EU's second best main support, I think. Like right behind Astro. Like comfortably.
Yeah,
I actually don't even think it was close.
He was better than Astro at every non-Lucio hero.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
100%, not probably, 100%. Like
that guy was fucking cracked.
Avala was like, you know what? Rack attack. You know, he's got like 17 Brig montages on YouTube. You know, like what the fuck? I got to start a rack hate segment. The Yaki segment is getting old, but like the rack hating segment.
Oh, Yaki mentioned.
Dridro was genuinely like so solid, such a solid main support. And just fucking cut from
that Paris roster actually was fucking fine, you know? Like, I know they started.
Vessela, Naga, Dridro.
They threw them under the bus way too early.
I mean, they just rolled a Genji meta with an EU
Odegaard.
flex DPS. What do you do, actually? What do you do? You an EU flex DPS that isn't Kev, you roll a Genji meta at the beginning.
It's in the scriptures. You have to cut them.
And then you start cutting them. Bro, I was fucking terrified. Like, I'm like one of 3 or 4 EU flex DPS. Like, Naga gets cut instantly on Genji. Psycho gets cut instantly on Genji. It's like me and Kev left this. Oh, fuck, I'm gone. I'm next. Like, it was awful.
Back to the wall.
Yeah.
All right, so North America's doomed. We'll move on to Europe, which isn't doomed. I feel like the main story from this, because ultimately SSG and ENTS, their qualification was sealed. They ended up being the 2 top teams anyway, to maybe no one's surprise outside of one particular country. It was the main story.
Emphasis on the there.
Yes,
it's a bit weird.
I didn't mean it, but maybe it's the subconscious, so this is coming through. But the main story is obviously the week 1 upset where PEPS 3-0'd SSG, and this led to loads of people's paradigms and power rankings being thrown out the window. PEPS on top, SSG complacent, comfortable, best in the West, no more. PEPS on top, deserved winners, and they will surely prove it again in the forthcoming week. So I'm going to go to Unter first, actually, because I feel like there's a couple of people who have a pretty biased take here. As a neutral outsider, Unter, were you buying into the PEPS hype after the first 3-0?
Come on, mate. Come on. There's not 1 second where you're going to catch me believing in PEPS, you know? Maybe for half of a second, I thought, how do I say the cast player's name?
Zodial.
How do I, for at least half a second, I thought, is Exodial the next coming of Christ? You know, I was very briefly wondering.
It was tested for a second.
But it was like, I was looking at Space Station's hero selection and thinking, maybe they don't really want to win this. You know what I mean? Like, if they really want to win this series, if Chris and Jamie ever wanted to win a series, would Jamie be on Genji right now? You know what I mean? Like,
you could not blame that on... Nah, it's not my fault, bro. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
But Reddit's...
You literally a minute, maybe a minute and a half ago were talking about how your Genji had been so concerned about losing your job. So, I stand my ground that, you know, I think it was pretty clear that that SSG were playing with some constraints. Put it that way.
But this is an interesting topic, because obviously Reddit absolutely 100% were like, Jamie should be hung for this. He needs to get off it. Chris has made this mistake before. We need suitable compensation, maybe Reddit for the Genji performance. He's got to have something else going on.
Subscribe to the Patreon to find
out. But also Jake said it in, was it the finals post-game interview? And it was like, oh, the Genji Echo stuff doesn't work. So I guess this is the chance to defend the comp.
Clients. Actual client take that the Genji Echo can't work. We just played like shit. Like, I don't know. Like, you look at Iconvold, we're just getting picked by a cast flanking each fight, and you're looking at Genji Echo saying that's the problem? Fuck off, bro. Like, the comp was fine. We just played awful. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I think like the thing is like this is like this is the truth, right? And when we're going to talk about the grand final, I'm going to say this, okay? Just so this is like me setting the this is what a real coach who understands of what would say. Okay, ends were practicing with Sky, and Sky couldn't play the finals. Ents were trialing new comps, they maybe weren't. So when we beat Ents in grand finals, this is not an indictment on Ents being shit and us being good. There was certain factors which made the game easier than it would have been if this was a final. Okay, so there you go. There's a coach who's won a game and admits that the enemy team was slightly hampered by situations. Okay. When we played against PEPS the first time, we had just come off like a week break. And what we decided was, listen, we clearly can play like this, like BAP style, like the Sigma stuff. It's the RAM stuff, like it's clearly a good look for us where we're pretty competitive. But it feels like, especially in a world where hero bans are coming, which is what we still like believe will happen. If we can only play one comp, then we are probably going to get fucked at the World Cup. So why not try double flex comps, Double flex comp is very trendy these days. We have 2 flex DPS players, which most teams can say that they don't have, right? So why not try to learn a new comp? Let's take Hattie off like a shield tank. Let's take Landon off BAP. Let's see if we can play different heroes and see if we can still win Europe with it. That was the goal, right? Our scrims with the Genji Echo were pretty fucking reasonable, actually. Like our scrims that week, we were still winning most. Like we weren't dominating. Okay, we could do better. Like we have done better, but we were still doing fine. We had enough confidence. And we even said when we were 2 down to PEPS, we're like, let's fucking see how it goes. Let's just stick with it, because our seed was locked for EWC. Even if we'd lost to Quick Esports and finished fucking 12th, our seed was locked. We were still going to be the same seed that we are now. So we play with all of these like situations and the series, like there was a few maps where it wasn't close, a few maps where it was close, And then what ended up happening was we lost it and we say, okay, fair enough. We go back to the drawing board. Like we work on a few things. We realize what our mistakes were. If you like one thing that I think is true, if you play a new comp in official, it's different to playing it in scrims, Like whenever you play a comp, like Dive, for example, I think is harder to play in officials than in scrims. So one thing that's probably true is our scrim results on Dive this season as a team have been pretty fucking good. In officials, not bad, but not as good, right? Like I think there was definitely like a 10% or 20% win rate on Dive in officials. So there's all these reasons why we lost. And then fucking hell, man, like all of like the PEPS tweets, like the way they were typing in match chat and stuff. It's good. I'm glad because I'm a hateful person. I fucking hate everything. Okay. So when once EXO died, I had no I'm trying to fucking manufacture beef with Rush, But like it's so forced. Like Rush doesn't even know who I am. We can't communicate. There is no like true rivalry between me and Rush, Thank God PEPS came around and fucking acted the way they did after that game because it relit my fire,
Because as well, I feel like what happened is it became so overblown. Because I think as well, what happened in that first game, PEPS played better. I think that's fair to say.
Agreed.
They deserve to win. Maybe
Agreed.
Esperanza, you guys really shit the bed. But on the other maps, I think PEPS just outplayed you a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
But because there was so much overblown hype, at least me personally, I felt like the need to like course correct the universe because obviously that's my responsibility.
Where's the Coach OC tweet? You got to get the Coach OC tweet up.
Well, yeah, everyone was blown out over so much that you need to like de-rank them, like re-manage expectations, right? Because the fact that they then go and lose the next game to SSG actually isn't the end of the world in theory either. It's just, okay, we've shown we can be competitive in one match. Can we try and reach that standard again or whatever it is? But there was so much gas applied. And then obviously all the cards come crumbling down.
Yeah, I like the way like
game.
Maybe now is a good time to bring up some of the tweets, But even after we won the second time, there's still like the PEPS players and coaches still tweet like, their coach, Le Renegade, fucking said, it's like it was patch. Like, motherfucker. Do you know this Sigma comp? We were playing it for weeks in Dallas. We knew it existed, right? Like this wasn't like, fuck, does Sigma beat Mario? We were fucking playing that against the Korean teams. In that first game, if we had to qualify, I could swap to those heroes, and you saw what happens when we swap to those heroes. When we play Sigma BAP, what happens? You literally get full capped and full held on every single map, Like this idea that it was like the fucking cope that it was patch difference on the second one is fucking unbelievable. It makes me I can't wait for the next PEP scrims, Because I don't know. I'm like I almost never type in match chat normally, but these guys fucking pissed me off, to be honest with you. So fucking insane. They could have just said, listen, top 3 again, that's a good performance, we qualify for the World Cup. But it's I think the team, PEPS, believe their own hype. I think even now, if you quiz them now, PEPS think they beat us for AO because we were overconfident because they had like what did Renegade say in his tweet? Because like they win the brawl mirror. And,
they're better at the brawl.
Yeah, even though the scrims this week they don't mention that obviously. So it's like stuff
no,
like this,
not.
you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like I understand why the fans can't understand that like a tournament where we have already qualified and like wouldn't be as serious as the ones where we're on LAN. But the fact that like these guys are still like even to this day convinced. Like, did you see the tweet that their org did to us beating them 3-0? They tweeted a comeback, which is them winning in the winners bracket. It's like that's the worst comeback ever. Yeah, so you won. It
was when Astro said it was a warm up, right?
Yeah. You won when it didn't matter, and when it did matter, we spawn camped you every map, and then your reply is just a tweet to the other one, like fucking fine.
Like I don't know, because it really frustrated me because it's like we played like the Genji Echo stuff, and we were only scrimming Ents and VP right for those 4 days, and we were beating Ents quite handedly on it, right? And then we come in, they play better than Ents do, they win for it, right? And then it's all this like overconfident shout or something. It's like I don't feel like we were coming in as like fucking egomaniacs here. Like I don't know if they're like pissed because we don't scrim them. I don't know. Maybe they should start winning maps and scrims if they want us to scrim them. Like maybe they should actually do something. Like I don't think 3-0ing a team that's 4 days into scrims is enough to give you the right to get a scrim. So maybe if in an actual scrim they can get a map ever, like then maybe we'll actually scrim them more.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Can you pull the tweet back up though? Because I think the FD God tweet, like above that you're quoting, is way worse than the Renegade one.
That's true, dude. Just like experience, he said. It just needs more experience.
You're the player with like 6 years playtime on the team, and you lose and you instantly say experience diff. If I'm Exordial, if I'm Tread, if I'm anybody on that team,
all he's doing is shitting on his younger teammates, right?
Yeah, I'm reading that and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like you're just shit talking me. Like we just lost and you're blaming me? Lack of experience? Like what? I don't know. That's insane, actually. That's the most insane one to me by far.
The second FD God tweeted Coach Gap the first time, it was on site, you know. Like that was
the fire inside you was ignited.
That's all I needed. Just put it as my desktop background. All right, we're winning this fucking tournament now, boys. Let's bring out Baptiste again.
I don't know how much of this. I think it's definitely true in like the wider public conversation as well. And I don't know if it happens in every esport in reality, or I guess maybe in every sport as well. But the idea that one result then completely shifts the permanent power rankings or something feels really naive. Like I feel like, I don't know if it's because there's so limited big events in Overwatch, maybe compared to like a CS or something, or like if you use traditional sports like NFL or football, you've got relatively big games very frequently, right? Where you have to play top opposition. But it feels like the reaction to this was like massively overblown and everyone just bought into it immediately. And I guess SSG are just washed now. And I don't really, that doesn't seem to apply in any other sport or any other esport. But everyone was just bought in.
I think to an extent, it's going to be people wanting it to be true, right? Like
no one wants, fun, right? Like
no one wants the team that's winning.
The highlight of the weekend.
Yeah, no one that wants the team that's winning to just always win. You know, everyone wants to see an NA team beat Defiant. Everyone wants to see teams beat us at Ents, you know? So I understand like publicly why people are maybe like you're buying into it, because like it's just more fun to believe that that's the case than being like oh no guys, it was a nothing game, what does it matter? Like no, fucking run with it, give it legs, be like yeah, they're the best team in the world. But I mean, you as the players have to have some kind of idea on if it's true or not. Like, you can't think the same.
It depends how much of it is like a public-facing front, you know? Like, if we take someone like who is probably really at the top level in this in Overwatch, like, I imagine Gator is very much doesn't always say the exact same things in public as he does in private. You know, sometimes there's a different ethos being portrayed, you know, one way than the other. So if PEPS were just like, let's give it big on Twitter, let's drum up the rivalry. Because to be fair, as someone spectating it, I was preying on PEPS' downfall. I was so invested in a series I wouldn't have otherwise been invested in because of PEPS. So in that way, I'm actually very grateful for him, and I want to see more of it. But I think if they believe it internally, I think it maybe actually fucks their mindset. Because in that grand final, everyone on SSG had at least one, if not multiple keyboards plugged in to make sure they could be filling match chat constantly with mental harassment. But PEPS pretty much radio silent.
Yes, that's the thing, right? In the first
until-
game, a lot of typing, nothing in the second game.
But
Wait, the
until-
Psycho's about to type. No, this is about to be the Psycho type.
but then I thought, all right, what they've done is they said, look, there's a load of fucking noise around this fixture. SSG are yapping, they're barking. You know what they say about the big dog and the small dog and having to bark, you know. So let's just all mute match chat, block out the noise. Let's just try and play, right? Not an unreasonable decision. But then I think it was in map 3 or something, Tread types back. And this is the first sign of communication from PEPS, I think. And at that point, I realized, oh, fuck, he's not just unmuted match chat, is he? They might have had it unmuted the entire time, and they've just sort of sat there and taken it. And I was like, oh no, they just crumbled, and they've just been slowly just hacking away at the mental. So yeah, I'd like to think it was all just a public thing for show, but there's a suspicion I have that maybe they bought a little bit of what they were selling.
I mean, I get it, you know. I mean, sometimes you punch up, you beat the teams, and you feel like you're the hot shit, and it can get to your head a bit. So I understand it a bit, especially for the less experienced players on that team. I can understand how they be that way, but you'd expect the more experienced ones to be able to ground their team a bit. But
well, Ben didn't tweet, right? What did Ben say? He's truly the voice of reason.
No, he did, right?
He did tweet, and he made an excuse too.
No,
he did. He was also the next. Yeah.
I mean, it was all of the more experienced people tweeting, really, no?
It was all of the French people on the team.
I
knew there was an angle somewhere in this. There we go.
FD got Ben Best and the Renegade. It was. That's all I'm saying, okay?
Lost to ourselves on Hollywood defense.
Yeah, and then
look, he said, to SSG was my understanding.
No, and then said, look, he says, oh, not able to solve the Discord server issue, putting as the lowest seed for some reason. Like it's like sad to start an important match with a Discord server issue. So he's not outright blaming it, but he makes sure that it's typed into the the post-loss game. You know,
it's not the problem.
To be fair, it was bullshit that they weren't higher seeds.
Sad.
Like it was actually complete bullshit that they weren't higher seeds. Same with Ents in grand finals. Makes no sense.
This is a bit of a tangent. So for those who didn't realize, obviously what normally happens in like an upper lower bracket is you have your seeding beforehand from the round robin, but once you have someone knocked down to lower bracket, the upper bracket team is the higher seed going through. This wasn't true. So in both situations where SSG came from the lower bracket, ran into PEPS from the higher bracket, the original seeding from before the tournament took place from the round robin. So SSG got map pick. And the same thing happened in the final, despite Ents getting, in theory, what should be some form of advantage from the upper bracket route. They got 0 advantage from the upper bracket route because they had to play SSG. So SSG got the map pick advantage there. So that's like that bit of Ben's tweet is true, and I think that's
like that's valid, right? It comes across as a bit bitter because they lost, but I understand why he'd mention it.
It's a valid complaint. I don't think it
did not change the result at all.
Yeah,
I don't think if PEPS picked map 1, they weren't getting 3-0 spawn camp pushed in like a fucking dog kennel. I don't think it was ever not happening. Like,
pushed in like a dog kennel.
Pushed into a dog kennel. No, the other FD God tweet I linked to, no? Like you can plug Chris in as well if you show that one. Get some Chris coaching.
Coaching.
This was day after, right?
Tweet.
This was day after the game, and he's still.
Oh sure, this guy's mad.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I played Lucio in a scrim for SSG, the Boostio. You might have heard about it. You know how many times I Ajaxed? 0.
That's the name.
You know how many times I was first death? Like once, maybe twice, maybe like I got beat off the map at one point. That can happen. But yeah, like I don't know. I actually don't know how the Ajaxes happen as much as they do. It doesn't make sense to me. But you think at some point you'd stop pressing Q when you're about to die, but
they're Lucio players.
You don't have to start in
the Everyone was expecting PEPS to be the main target of this episode, but what people didn't anticipate is us to target the French, all main support players, and in particular Rack Attack.
I mean, everyone knows that main support players are the worst players in the game. Every single pro knows that main support is the weakest role, 100%. Like, there's no doubt about that, right? Maybe it was like main tanks in Overwatch 1, But I think in Overwatch 2 now, like it's shifted, you know, because they've got to start juggling. Now it's just like it's so definitively funny Astro, like there's no question about it. You know what I mean? Like there's just nobody else to point the finger at if you're talking about low player quality. You know, it's like how many heroes do you play? Like half of one. That's the best they can produce every single time. No chance. Not Korean level, that's for sure.
Then I feel like we've covered all the main topics. There's maybe a few little bits of FACEIT stuff to tidy up. I guess maybe one thing that maybe falls into the upset category was Twisted Minds beating Virtus Pro. Twisted Minds in the first week of FACEIT Playoffs when they played PEPS seemed like the worst team ever to play Overwatch. They were all over the place. In some situations, UB was literally jumping off the map on Torb. Quartz went on stream afterwards, bringing up motivational quotes left, right, and center to try and, you know, get himself through it. And I mean, they bounced back the next week and beat Virtus Pro.
The motivational quotes worked.
The motivational quotes worked for Quartz and it worked out, but an absolute disaster for Twisted Minds. So, and I was a bit surprised to see him beat Virtus Pro. I actually had Virtus Pro ranked quite highly. They had that really close game with Ents. I thought they were probably going to be the third best team, but they seem to just have no answer to the dive.
It's like an insane like style matchup for these two teams, right? It puts TM on their best comp and like Virtus against their worst. I'm really disappointed that Virtus like pussied out of and didn't die by their sword of like sticking double flex. I don't think they're a team that can afford to not play their style, you know? Like I think they look noticeably worse when they're not running that stuff. So I think they just need to figure out a way to make it work against dive. Like you can always evolve the shit and adapt it. We did it for 2 years with Ryan. Like I know Shockwave was saying in your chat X that it's because they don't have anyone that scrims dive. So maybe that's a real issue for them. The fact that they actually only get to play against this comp on game day.
Yeah.
Well, they copied a lot of the SSG swaps, and then it just didn't work, right? But it's not like it's not just a plug and play matchup. You have to figure out a lot of things to survive certain ults and certain dives.
Yeah, I think like that. There's probably like an EU triangle where I feel like PEPS beat TM, TM beats VP, and I feel like VP beats PEPS, and it's like actually like because of their style. So I think like VP maybe got a little bit unlucky. Although like to be fair, like this team, like when it was Ataraxia and VP and stuff, like this team, like it's a combination of players even on EXO. These have had some fucking unbelievably poor officials, you know? Like did Ataraxia not get out of their group or something, lose into like really weird teams, and then
they did, right? They like hard choked. Yeah.
Like actually, like this team, like in scrims have been pretty good, but they actually have had like apart from that one Ents win, they've actually had almost no good like performances in officials. I think
they got reverse swept by Ents like just this stage, right? Like,
and that was dive as well, right? Like Ents, because they had chasing, they lose the first two maps, they swap to dive, and then again VP find themselves with no answer for it.
It's actually really rough for them.
Choke watch, you know.
Well, yeah, on choke watch, but it's actually so rough for them if they get hard fucked by one side of the play and no one will scrim against them because we're not playing dive against them. We never do. And seemingly, there's no reason to because they just choke against an official. So why would you give them the practice? You know.
Well, luckily at the Esports World Cup, there'll be no additional dive teams for them to deal with, so they should that one all right. Then
Chris is gone.
Well, I guess it's the only other. We nearly skirted over it because we skipped the first week of playoffs. But this is maybe our chance for the Luminosity Cope section of the stream, where Luminosity ran into that one team again who seems to impair any chance of happiness. Lose to Citrus Nation again.
Doesn't seem to matter whether it's collegiate, whether it's OWCS. We just cannot beat that motherfucker Lethal. Like it just doesn't matter the context. Somehow Lethal is just like the ultimate raid boss of any fucking event. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's for the 6th place in the tournament, for the 1st place in the tournament. Dennis is just there, the fucking troglodyte, waving his arms up in the air, ready to fucking gatekeep us from whatever. But I don't know. Like for the Luminosity Cope segment, I think we had 2 days of scrims before we went into the matches for the playoffs bracket. I don't want to say that the team, I don't want to say that the team didn't take it seriously, but I mean, it was like, basically told people like leading into FACEIT, it's like, tell me the days that you're not going to be available, you know? Because like at the end of the day, it's how much do you guys want to go to the tournament, you know? and our team has like a mixture of people. Some people that want to take it like really seriously, and some people that are more in the old guard of being 25 years old and not giving a shit about the competition anymore because they've seen it all already. So because we've got this bit of a mixture. No, that wasn't specific at all, I hope. But yeah, so because we've got this mixture, you know, people basically talked about all the different availabilities and whatnot, and we wound up having, I want to say, 2 days of scrims before loading into the playoffs bracket of FACEIT League, you know? So we didn't have a lot of time preparation-wise. We were pretty fucking strapped in terms of scrims because people went to Dallas, people had shit to do, and you know, that's just all the time that people were able to avail themselves for. So then we loaded in, we lost the match, and I mean, obviously everyone wanted to blow their heads off after losing to Citrus, because I mean, it's like, you know, I think we could stomach a loss deeper in the bracket to, like, you know, the usual suspects, you know, although it appears that Citrus is actually the usual suspect.
They turned up and guilty 4 times, but they're not your primary suspects yet.
No, because it's like, you know, Citrus is a team that is like a consistent 6-0 in scrims kind of situation, you know. Like we will pretty much always be beating Citrus in scrims and whatnot. And it's more like a dogfight versus TSM and Chungus, that sort of situation. TSM, Chungus, NRG Shock. You know, that I feel like that whole bracket of teams is like this big goopy slop of like everyone is around about the same level, and you know, a lot of it comes down to, you know, like a little, you know, maybe 5% of a meta or match day performance. Because I think that, like, you know, whether NRG Shock or TSM or Chungus is going to the land at the end of the day, like that you could have flipped a coin for that outcome. Like it would have been really, really close. Although maybe TSM has fallen off a little bit since they got Meatball. But regardless, like Luminosity didn't put in like the requisite effort to make it to EWC, I would say. I think that's a fair assessment. Is that cope or is that realism? I don't know. Like, I don't think that it was an undeserved loss. I think losing to Citrus fucking sucks, you know. Like I think I'm going to strangle Lethal to death with my hands. Or maybe you should beep that. That's going to get us demonetized. Note that down, Alpha. No, not that. Yeah.
I have a question that might add to your cope, right? I feel like I've never seen Citrus Nation lose when they actually have all 5 of their original players in the server. Is it possible they're actually just a decent team? I feel like in officials, they just don't.
In Orisa meta, they were a good team, but like their tanks, like their strongest hero by far is Orisa. You know, like I think on the final map where it's like we lose, it's like I'm pretty sure False had like 1.8 times their tank's damage or something. You know, like there was a pretty significant gap there. Like their tank is an Orisa player. Like that team was genuinely really strong in Orisa meta, and then like we lost to them in the Swiss stage playing Doom into Orisa the whole time. You know, like just not picking a hero that kills Orisa. But you know, like getting reverse swept by them in EWC without them picking Orisa once, you know, that's like just go fuck yourselves, you know. What can I say? It's like that series was brilliant, you know. It's like we roll into the first corner of Shambali on map 5. Citrus Nation puts down a window. All 5 players of Luminosity use their ults in unison. You know, it's like you see a moment like that, and it's like I don't think we're going to win this one. I don't think we're winning. You know, we just took a 1-for-5 ult trade. Like, what's going on?
It really works.
Won the fight though.
We did win the fight. I'll give you that. But then someone staggered. We didn't even get a snowball before the ult. Someone like walked up and got a free fight.
You got traded in a 5-for-1 fight.
But again, like for the Luminosity coach section, I mean, I think that there is no there's no excuse. You know, like if you want a better result, try harder. Like put more effort in, scrim more frequently. You know, and you can be like, oh, you're the coach. Why aren't you making that decision for them? It's like, bro, people get paid like fucking $4 an hour to coach this game. You know, like the hourly rate is not great, like from a monetary return perspective. You know, if the players don't want it, I don't want it. You know, I want as much as the team wants. So like, if people don't want to put in the effort, I'm not going to fucking bang on the extracurricular hours on top of that for fucking $0. I had a fucking Australian team in the back pocket to qualify me to the event anyway.
What I'm hearing is that you're not dedicated. That's what I'm hearing.
That's not my fucking problem, bro.
That's why you always have a plan B.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, so you might have to cut this out, but my coach was arguing with my team to prevent us from throwing. So, you know, it sounds like you're not dedicated. It sounds like you just take the L if your team wanted to.
Well, yeah, I mean, if 50% of the roster doesn't feel like coming to scrims, you know, like I'm not going to bend over backwards to fix that, you know, like it can't be changed. Like if they're not going to avail themselves, what can I do? Like the team is the team.
This is maybe a side tangent as well, but I think sometimes, especially recently with all the orgs coming in for the Esports World Cup, there's a lot of familiar names all of a sudden. People see like Virtus Pro and maybe to a lesser extent Gaming Gladiators, but quite a lot of the orgs involved aren't actually involved to the same financial degree as like a full-time salary. So I think sometimes there's a bit of a mislead or a disconnect between which teams are actually full salaried and have the sponsor and which teams just have like a logo and a bit of money.
Yeah. Well, Luminosity is substantially below the status of a properly
full-time
salaried
salary.
team, you know, it's like not even in the same universe, you know. Like
depends what you mean by full-time salary, right? If you're talking about like anything comparable to OWL, then there's only like 2 or 3 teams that match that, no?
I mean, for what I'm talking about, I'm saying it's like,
so
you
the
know,
1.5K, like that most
well
teams
below
are
that. Well
Yeah.
below that. So it's like, at the end of the day, you know, you're basically getting paid for Twitter branding at that point, you know. If there are expectations attached to that level of salary, then you're fucking delusional. Like seriously. And it's like I work for Maryville, not for like the you know, like doing well in the non-collegiate stuff.
Yeah.
You know? We put like serious effort in as a team to do well in the college tournaments, but then once the college cycle ends, like the pressure, it's more on whether the players want to do it or not. You know, that's how that works. It's not my responsibility to force them to go hard in every single tournament. It's my responsibility to force them to go hard in the tournament that keeps me employed. Like that's
Yeah. Well, it's also true that Maryville will have different stakes in this as well. It's more important for Maryville to do well in the collegiate tournament than it would to do well in OWCS or the Esports World Cup as well.
Yeah. But I'd say the reality of the situation is that, you know, if you have a roster that wants to do really, really well in the extracurricular tournaments, they will naturally do very, very well in the collegiate ones as well. It's just hard to get those things to line up because, you know, if you want to have a team that does really, really well in the extracurriculars, sometimes they don't want to go to school. So, you know, there's issues there.
Then I guess the only other, we can sort of transition into maybe the Esports World Cup itself. Maybe the most sort of, I guess the only roster news is obviously with Ariel being removed from Timeless, they've been allowed to sign a replacement player and they've chosen Infected. And it's all happened actually quite quickly, right? They managed to come to this conclusion.
Are we going to discuss that?
Days. Yeah, we can.
The Ariel thing, you know, I feel like we glossed over that very briefly.
Yeah, I mean, presumably not many hot takes about the situation.
Yeah, no, try not to be super openly racist, I think would probably be like a tenet.
Step one. That was what, I mean, we told them after the Sam situation, but they don't listen. I mean,
yeah, no.
was 14 didn't have a time machine.
It was listening in the past. Yeah,
I should have. If they had that time machine, then, you know.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many hot takes either way. Ariel being removed to the roster was indeed the right decision from Timeless. And I'm also glad, to be fair, that FACEIT have then allowed an exception to be made. As much as
Timeless tweeted, didn't they? Timeless tweeted that it isn't an exception and every team is allowed a bit of time. So apparently that like other teams. That's what they said. I think I can find the tweet if we want to fact check ourselves, but I'm fairly sure it wasn't a wild dream I was in last night.
Oh, I presumed it was like the rosters are locked and it's an exception.
Yeah. If it was a dream, I would have for sure been naked. So
what?
How they go.
Most of Chris's dreams are actually just browsing Twitter without any clothes on.
Yeah, that's it. Actually. I can find it. I'm so good at Twitter now these days after Hunter coached me up.
FACEIT and promotion, Twitter and social media. What can't you coach, Hunter? Maybe a way to beat Citrus Nation.
Yeah, way to beat Dennis.
Can't coach my way out of fucking Dennis's box, dude. Like it's just unbelievable. Where's the GIF? Where's the fucking GIF? Put it on, Alpha.
All right, I got it.
You got it. Okay. Get that GIF on the screen. Get that on the screen right now.
Eldritch horrors.
Fucking boss music starts playing.
Just a happy little client waving.
Lethal's face when he sees Luminosity on the other side of a bracket. So roster lock was only for FACEIT League. All qualified teams have additional time to make adjustments to their rosters before Esports World Cup, not just us. Oh, okay. So all the rosters could, in theory, change, or be added to, or be.
Let's get some inputs in, Chris.
No bucket.
No?
No, I'm not really an import guy, you know.
Maybe we get an import coach in. Did the coaches take an import slot?
No, you probably can. You can try and convince Rush to join.
Yeah.
To make it happen.
He should take the step. He should take the step up.
You should do a coach swap.
coaching the Chinese roster?
Yeah, do a swap. Send Chris over to China.
Yeah, Chris would love to go to China.
that. He would be over the moon.
So for Infected though, I mean, obviously maybe the obvious choice in many ways for Tank, who was the runner-up to qualifying, probably one of the better Tank prospects in North America. The only argument is, actually, could they not just pick literally anyone in the world, right? Because
like a real superstar.
Should they have set their ambitions higher?
Yeah,
I don't know. Fuck it. Like if they're gonna scrim from America and stuff, then they don't want to deal with it.
I don't think it's a bad pickup.
Yeah, I think it's fine, really.
Also, at the same time, in that NRG timeless game, watching Infected give up the entirety of Midtown on their second defense and just go into a room against like fucking Ram Venture actually made me want to kill myself. Like, not to be hyperbolic, you know.
No,
I was literally reaching for the rope when I watched that happen. I don't understand how that can. I don't understand the thought process to do that. Like, yeah. So. Yeah,
other than that, good pickup.
Other than that, good pickup.
It can be improved.
I think one thing I will say about it, because the obvious choice is, what if we just signed like the best available Korean or something like that? But I think there is obviously a probably good argument that Infected will just fit a lot more in terms of the environment and culture and all of that. A lot more smoothly.
I think like a 10-20% better Korean player, or even like a twice as good Korean player as Infected, isn't going to make them do better, and that they'd be better off having someone that can actually fit in with the team properly, with the team properly, and like actually communicate and everything properly in game, and they'd have more of a chance doing well with that than someone that's like individually mechanically better.
Yeah, I'm happy for Infected as well. I think he's a nice kid.
Yeah. He's super nice. I played catch with him during the 3-hour break.
Super hard, despite all the cultural pressures not to try hard or not take it seriously at all. He manages to try hard despite all that. So happy for Infected. Glad he gets to go.
He was so comically close to qualifying by himself anyway. He pretty much
yeah.
It's like
it's just alone, right? As well. Like he's still on.
You know what I mean?
He's still on.
Do you reckon that means Tamis are allowed to bring someone else too? Like, could they sign like PGE or something just for the vibes? Like, if there's like a Rossa Lock, like they could, in theory.
Well, presumably not PGE because he's signed by Shock, right? Like, it's just a loan thing.
Well, I guess they could loan more players.
They could loan more. Yeah, guys, why don't we loan all of Shock, the team that we just beat, and give them Seeker get screwed over again?
Team, maybe.
I believe they call that one Gator Theory.
Do you think PGA has like signed away his soul to Shock somehow? Like the reason that Albert was able to spin that as the general manager was by like scamming the absolute fuck out of PGE and somehow stealing his rights as a human. So then, NRG.
Albert's got that dog in him, like Albert. If there's someone who's gonna make that happen, it's gonna be my mate Albert.
You heard it here first. Albert, takes advantage of kids.
Can we talk about the fact that for 2 FACEIT episodes in a row, Albert has been selected by Platchat for their FACEIT expert to break down the games of what happened?
Wait, is that what he was on?
Yeah, he's been on twice now. He was on yesterday. I'm like, okay, I know there's a rivalry, but I feel like if Platchat had taken it seriously, I don't know why they don't invite Commander X on. Like, surely nobody's watched as many fucking FACEIT games as this guy, but maybe that's another burnt bridge.
You're the only person I know that watched South America. And then I feel like saying,
why haven't they?
Yeah, I feel like saying that you watched South America is generous, though, because I actually do not think you could tell me a single thing that happened in that 7-map series.
No, I watched the best of 7, and then about an hour later, we were talking about Esports World Cup teams, and I was like, which team was it from South America that qualified again? I got it wrong. So no disrespect to South America. Shout out to Loaded, of course. I know your name now, and I look forward to watching you at the Esports World Cup. And I definitely will remember your name from here on out.
Can we beat Loaded?
We could do a tier list to decide it.
Should we do a tier list?
Could be tempted.
We should do it.
Oh,
all right, so
time for another beer, Max.
God, you had that. Yeah, no, actually, good shot.
While he finds a way to get through this.
For those who aren't up to date on the Patreon Q&A lore, which you can, of course, go and subscribe to and watch. You can watch a whole backlog of Q&A episodes. I think they're actually quite evergreen as well, because we will just answer literally any question. And we always do a tier list in those episodes, and Unter always hates it. So we're bringing it. bringing it to the main broadcast at the expense of Max's liver. So, should we just start with the obvious team? Should we start at the top? The S tier, who are the favourites to win the tournament?
M80. They got it. Kaluj gets his money.
M80, Crazy
they win.
Raccoons, and Falcons, like the big three.
The big three.
The big three. Nah,
So-
it's got to be Raccoons, definitely, right? Like,
Raccoon and Falcons, I think, 100% S tier. I think I would
considering
argue.
it's same patch as now, right? Like,
You
presumably,
started without me.
Yeah.
potentially.
You going to go back?
Any
And
disagreements
these are
so
pretty
far?
controversial picks so far.
So I would argue that Zeta are in this tier as well. Zeta
Yeah,
is
I
the
can buy
it.
FTG team.
New
So
FTG with like
it's
Fearless, right?
It's Bernard, Alpha E, Flora, Finn,
Oh, right,
Violet,
okay.
and they've added Fearless, which
I reckon
probably
that's
comes up their
Kappa,
roster
dude.
quite nicely.
Yeah, I
not
don't know
in
if
there.
I think they're
I
as
reckon
good as
Finn,
Raccoons or
Finn is
Falcons.
not at the flex support level of the other two teams. Fucking Flora is not at the main DPS level or the flex. Yeah, no way.
I don't. I
Kappa.
think they've had close series, despite
And
playing
Fearless
the
is
worst
like-
comps. The worst comps known to man. I see him on Zarya, Bat, Brig, and they're still going toe to toe.
They're going to stay on those comps.
Yeah, but surely not.
Now, think about how old
Surely
Fearless
they've
is as well.
evolved.
Fearless is like getting to Fleta age. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
think Fearless is the fucking bee's knees. He's gonna load into the server and he's gonna look like fucking Dante on Winston. Like that's what's coming.
I just figured it out. Fearless is fucking cooked. He's subs
What?
in. Fearless is in. I ban Winston. What's he gonna do? Is that honestly, unironically, there might be no player who's affected by Eurobans more than Fearless at this fucking
You're
tournament.
gonna act like Fearless can't play fucking Ram and Doomfist and all this
Yeah,
other shit.
that's
like
exactly what I'm gonna do.
Just lying. Just lying.
I'm putting them A tier. I'm with Max. That's shit.
Yeah, they're dog
I know.
shit.
I think
They're
they're
ahead
close
of
to S tier.
SSG, but they're
I'm
trash.
I'm a burner believer.
The good news
Think
is
he's got
I
it,
can't see the logo at all, but you have to believe it's in there. Fucking.
So then, should we stay within the region then? I guess the
Yeah,
question
what's
is.
the Fnatic roster?
So
What's that one
Fnatic
again?
it's the Yessi roster. So it's Donghack, Bliss and Irony have been relegated to the bench forever. They've been replaced by Izzyaki and Lee Jae Gong. So Fate and Fletter have called up the
Whoa.
boys for one more ride. They've also signed Checkmate from Rock Esports. So their DPS is now Checkmate, Viper, and Knife, presuming that Knife is going to take over hit scan
Wait, that's like three
responsibilities.
insane Tracer players. What the fuck?
I reckon Checkers and Viper is gonna be fucking nuts.
Yeah, because Knife's been playing the hit scan for him in when they've used it in the Korea and Asia land. So I presumably that's the role he will continue to fill. And then Donghack on tank, who has had that 1 week where he was God's gift to esports once again. And they've also
Just
signed Attack.
the Doom guy for a week.
Yeah, like, well, what a week! What an exciting
One
week!
fucking week.
And then they got smashed and immediately eliminated out of the Asia land finals. But that's not important. Remember the week, guys. Remember when PEPS had that week? What a week!
Big week.
But they also signed Attack, who probably fills out a lot of the presumed gaps in Donghack's hero pool. So their roster looks better, I think. Even
That
if
roster to me sounds better than like Zeta, whatever the fuck that team was called.
I don't think they're better than Zeta.
I think you're wrong. How about that?
I think Zeta are better than Fnatic.
By a tier.
I think no. I think they're both A tier. I think
I'm
I
actually
could be
such a
convinced-
Knife Viper believer.
No, I think there's no way. I think you can't gaslight me that Fnatic are better than Zeta. I think they're like worse across like almost every role.
Well, their graphics kind of line up too, so you have to do it that way.
Yeah. The only question is like, are either of these teams? Can you push them into the Crazy Raccoons tier? But I feel like
I
feel
think
like-
Zeta, yes. Fnatic, no.
Can I
I
hear
think-
the hot take? Can I hear
Go
the
on.
hot take? If it's Malgameta again, like I had actually backed Falcons to win this time over Crazy Raccoons. They were so much better at the Malga stuff. I still think you can force off on other maps, and maybe that's where Crazy Raccoons becomes the better team. But like, I could really see Falcons ending up being like the ones better off here. Maybe hot take.
I
love
don't
hot
think
take.
Falcons are as far off Crazy Raccoon as maybe people think. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
they won that meta
I mean, they won the Malga mirror in Dallas. They
like
won
the
it.
Renegade says, if you win the Meta Mirror, you pretty much won effectively.
Yeah,
even
they're
if
the
your
real
team was
Dallas
able to hard-
champions.
If a team's able
That's
to
why
hard
they've got
counter,
the
it doesn't
trophy.
fucking matter, you know.
Can we,
The thing
can
is,
we put Fnatic in the B tier? I know we kind of moved past it, but
I think
I
we need an
swear-
extra tier because I did this tier list the other day, and I actually think that when you get to it, I think you need like an extra 2 tiers because I think somewhere in the middle there is a
Yeah, we can add
massive
more
gap
tiers.
between like the top 8 and the whatever, the fucking bottom 8, I suppose would be the right way of saying it.
To the top and bottom 8. Yeah,
I like
so
this.
I guess this is probably going to be the most debatable section because now we would have to add for Western teams into this. And I guess we'll start with the best in the West. As of recently reclaimed their crown after losing it to PEPS for a week.
S.
Subconscious again. You think
I'd
S?
say they have to be above Fnatic, dude. There's no way that fucking Lijagon and Izayaki, they're both like they're such like they've been put out to pasture, dude. They've gone to Saudi Arabia, bro. Like they're done. They're completely done professionally. And they're coming back. Like there's no way they're above SSG.
I think they're upgrades over Bliss and Irony, but I also agree that they both had pretty shit years competitively so far.
I reckon
no
Bliss could take it to Lijagon at this point. I think Irony was like the first pick bandit, but I reckon Lijagon's done.
Yeah, I could cop it. Obviously, I'm probably biased towards SSG inherently anyway.
That's odd. Ensign A tier.
Yeah, I would say
I do Toronto S tier.
You think?
Oh,
Okay, so I'm Toronto pills more than most. Okay, so I think Toronto were probably better than they showed in Dallas. You know, like I'm not to go like Kasaurus on the Toronto video where he says, you know, everyone knows we were the best team in scrims. I mean, I don't buy that, but I think Toronto are better than they showed. I think they have some issues. I also think the way that Toronto fucking scrim by just playing random heroes every map actually benefits the hero bound world quite a lot, you know? Like I actually feel like more rigid teams, maybe like us, we need to adapt to the hero bands more than Toronto because they already have like the flexibility kings on their roster, you know? One thing, okay, here's something that I will say. If hero bands comes in and if it is like strategically as engaging as it could be, the coach gap ability is fucking actually so high all of a sudden. So I don't know. I'm not saying this while we're mentioning Toronto for I'm not trying to fucking say anything, but what I'm just trying to say, you know, is like
gassing Kasaurus right now, like
or shitting on him depends on how you look at it, you know. So
you put him high. You're insinuating that he has huge agency.
But what I'm just saying is like something we should factor in is that actually like I think coaching is going to make an even bigger this difference than it did before, you know. So that's why I think SSG needs to go to S+ tier.
What? You think? Yeah, but that would imply then you think you can hero ban gap these S tier Korean teams?
No, just I can coach gap them. I mean, this was a joke. I don't actually think we should be S+ tier. But
I was gonna say, what hero are you taking out of the equation that's gonna
just coach gap? You don't
rile them up.
Figure it out. No, I think Toronto are pretty. I think they'll be pretty good. I think. Yeah, maybe S.
I think hero bans do benefit Toronto, but also again, if Mauga is like the most dominant comp on a lot of maps, I think they're awful at Mauga. I actually think they are awful at Mauga comp. I don't think they have any idea how to play it. They just booga go in, try to kill them before they kill you every single fight for no reason. Like they don't only do it in certain situations. They don't only do it with certain ults. They literally are just like, okay, I'm going forward again. Okay, I killed 5, or okay, we died. Like there's no nuance to how they play the Mauga comp. They literally just go in and try to out-mechanic the other team.
Works pretty well in North America, though.
It works fucking amazing in North America.
Fucking, that was bad.
So I can
go either way.
I could agree. I think they're either top of A or like bottom of S. You know, like I think in another meta they're comfortably S. So like I feel like I'm fine with putting them there. And I do agree with Chris that Mauga's not like mandatory across all maps, so maybe it's not as big a deal.
I guess they can also just rule it out for a series as well, right?
Yeah. Well, no, they can roll out for a map.
For a map, sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But like, I mean, knowing Toronto, they're probably going to ban everything but Mauga. Like, they're probably going to fucking like pick the best Mauga maps in the game and ban everything else. So, fuck those.
And then pick Ilios.
Yeah.
Pick Ilios, ban Winston.
Shout out. All right.
So I guess Ents are the next obvious team who feel like they would be up here. So I guess
are we doing Ents with assuming Trace Torch grows or assuming stock reverse?
Either. Don't fucking same to me.
You think it's the same?
Yeah. I think, no offense to Chase and Sky, but I think when they play that lineup, I think they lose a bit of their aura. I think they're like, it makes them more flexible, but I just don't think that team is like, it obviously just doesn't feel like that intimidating. I feel like the Vest Ghost lineup actually has like a level of aura on that one comp. Whereas when they just try to split everything, I feel like they just don't have anything that like screams out scary to me. So I think I'm a little bit down on Ents right now. I'm even though I was defending them earlier, I'm selling my Ent stocks a little bit, buying Toronto stocks.
I rewatched our finals, and I think Ents played so fucking bad. I think it was actually like egregious at times. Some of the shit they were doing. Like I'm really low on Ents right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be. It's not going. It's going to be a similar situation in Dallas, though, right? For all these Western teams, where the addition of Chase and being able to play dive helps very little against these Korean teams.
It helps against VP.
Yes,
They've got VP on the ropes. Get Chase in there, it's over. But we're playing Falcons. Finally, we can Winston mirror these guys. Maybe not.
Be that fucking JK guys. Just go dive mirror. Go dive mirror, please.
Like,
just go dive mirror.
Ents' success will be with the Vestler version of the roster, I think.
That's what I think so too. But then also Vestola is like fearless level hero bannable, right? Vest is in on a fucking Sigma map ban, and all of a sudden
you pick a map that Sig comp is like best on. You ban the Sig. You just play Ram. You're gonna instantly be like ahead, right?
I think there's still enough maps, but it's a disadvantage for sure, right? It's still way more exploitable than other players are. Then when we get to sort of, I guess, like for MAT,
do second NA next.
Second NA. You think there's like a big? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think Tree and Spectre are genuinely really good. Compete with most other DPS lines in these teams above them, maybe except for like the S tier ones. But I have zero faith.
Is there a Liar replacement going to be there for EWC?
No, I think Liar's back.
So, no.
Is he back?
He's back. Yeah. Oh, he's back? He's unretired?
I mean, he's been playing all the games, and as far as I'm aware, I
was under the impression that he was playing just because of like roster lock issues. But...
Yeah, maybe Bliss plays in future because they have an import slot open.
Yeah, so maybe Bliss plays in EWC. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess that Timeless news. Now they said the roster changes are possible, actually making this way more of a possibility than it otherwise would have been, right? But does that upgrade them in some kind of upgrade them a tier or anything if they got Bliss instead of Liar?
No, I don't think so. They're still just not that good.
Also, the impression I get from their social media is they're also not taking it super seriously, if you haven't heard. So,
that's the word on the street.
You know, the fact that, like, it's Malga meta, but I don't think we've seen Kaluj lock in a Malga at any point, thinks they're going to sort of live or die on the Sigma. And we've seen a Western team or two live or die on a Sigma before against some of these top teams, so it could happen.
I think M80 beats Ents in a Sigma.
No.
No. Sorry to say.
So then, should we go for... They used to be the best in the West. Now they're back down to third.
Best of the rest.
Best of the rest. PEPS.
They're definitely better than M80. They have to be, right? I have to believe that. Like, I have to believe that M80 not trying...
I think that's going too far. I think it's a C. I think they're the same.
It's definitely a C, but like they have to be above M80, right? Like,
I don't know. I'd probably take M80. I think if they played today.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can see it. I don't want to believe it though. That's just sad. Not enough experience. It's okay. Bit more experience.
Then
Timeless.
C tier.
Yeah, in fact,
I think C tier is like it gets girthy. I think there's like a lot of teams in there.
Also, as much as I think Infected is worse at Malga than Aerial, I think that team actually looked very good in this meta. And I think a lot of that it's team-based, right? It's something that Infected can integrate.
To be fair, I thought Aerial was like playing really fucking well. Like, I thought he was actually like hard carrying at points.
I don't, but I'm not commenting anymore.
You can argue in the long term he did more damage to the team than he did help, though, I think.
Oh,
sure.
definitely.
I mean, he helped them get across the line.
Qualify. Yeah, he helped them qualify.
But yeah, I think they'll still be decent, but I don't see them punching up against any of these sort of like A tier and above teams. I think they could quite easily come like third in a group or something, and maybe out early in the single elim portion. So then we hit the rest of the EMEA team. So Twisted Minds also feeling a C tier.
Yeah, I mean they got to be below PEPS, right? They literally never win. Like, how many times do PEPS have to 3-0 them?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, there's maybe a chance. I always think there's always that element with Twisted Minds that maybe they can just do better in a match. You know, like UB and Quartz have certain carry ability.
It's the same thing you said about Chase Torch. If you have the dive as your specialty, in National, they're just absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a controversial take, but if you're getting hard fucked by dive and you're going to an international, a VP actually like super like an 8D? Like low-key.
Oh,
I mean, no, you
think
can't be
yeah.
D, right? 'Cause you can still beat the teams above, but like
Yeah, I think this is me. This 5, I think, are all really similar.
I think as well, as much as like Virtus Pro's situation is a problem, it's at least a much clearer problem, right?
Yeah.
In terms of it's just this one match. Because if you take that matchup away, where would you actually power rank Virtus Pro? Like probably really close to Ents, honestly, no? If you just
Yeah.
pretended dive
B.
wasn't
Yeah, if dive was the thing, they're probably in
eliminated.
B quite comfortably.
Right? So it's like it's a huge problem for Virtus Pro to solve. But if they can solve that problem, they could maybe be the best.
I
Of the
mean,
rest,
a
or
VP
whatever
one
you
of
wanna
the
call it.
VP one of the teams going to Korea, right? Or no?
Yeah, I think so. That's word on the street.
I mean, maybe if they
That's
actually
a
get to
great
fucking
place to play
practice
against
against dive, like
Yeah, I mean, the boot camp.
if they can actually figure out a way
Yeah.
to, I'm not saying they're gonna be able to figure out how to beat the Korean dive, right? But it's so possible they can get good enough that they can beat like the Western dive teams,
Like a Twisted
Like,
Minds
it's-
or a PEPS
yeah,
or a
it's
Ents
so
or whatever it is,
possible.
right? Because remember,
Like-
Ents lost those like brawl maps.
Yeah, they're good at beating against the brawl stuff. Like they know how to do that. They just need to learn the dive shit, which they can if they're going to Korea, I guess. But I
That's
think
as
for
good
now
a
they
place
have
to
to be
go
in
as
C
any.
tier, right? They have to be in C tier.
KSA on
Yeah.
Doom. Anyone can learn.
Yeah, hopefully they have a different lesson than Twisted Minds got in Korea.
They're going C tier, no?
Yeah,
VP,
I agree. I think
Yeah.
C tier. This is.
C-
I like this
C-tier,
C
but-
tier as a break.
Yeah.
I think C tier, but the most likely of these C tier teams to move up a tier.
Yeah,
I can
so-
agree.
but-
And
yeah.
M80, I think, have like the highest up potential.
Yeah.
It feels like we're getting insane value from this additional tier we've added. To
That's
be
what
honest.
I did it, when I did this tier list yesterday. When I invented that tier, it was God bless it. You know. There's
Yeah,
a lot
no, this
of
is
it.
incredible. Really.
Which one?
So-
Which one's Max's team?
Blank.
Well, wait, let's.
Ah,
Yes. Where are we putting you, Max?
Do we need
D.
another break?
T.
Surely we need.
Australian and SAT.
Australian no scrim team. Like what?
Another region bragging
think you
about
can
not
beat-
scrimming.
Can you
Oh.
beat Bleed or the Brazilian team?
I don't
Brazilian
know.
team, 100%. No, obviously, shout out to Loaded, big fan.
I think you're right on
But-
purpose. Up
Big
top.
upload.
Yeah.
Keep
You've
loading.
got
Uploads.
an 80 aura, you know, you've got a few good players in there. So I think
I think
Yeah.
you're.
I
I think you're. I think you're
Yeah.
the best.
No, I mean,
of
we don't
the
scrim at all,
rest,
but we
but-
have a bunch of players to play the game for 12 hours a day. So like,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
that can help.
I think you can punch above like the loaded and bleed, in my opinion. Yeah,
Which
that's what I
one's
We
Bleed
think.
also
again?
have the
Bleed,
M80
Bleed
method
is the one with
as
like the
well.
turbo TP that took 2 maps off the Alpha team, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
This is the most controversial.
All right, yeah, because
People are
You read-
so bleed pilled.
go
Yeah.
read any Reddit threads about a tier list, or I'm sure if you did it on stream, Chris, as I did, you get a
Yeah.
bunch of people who come and go, but Bleed took 2 maps off FTG.
That's
They're probably
it.
better than the European teams. They're at least better than the American teams.
People
They're
were saying, "Oh,
probably
they'll
gonna be
take
like
Toronto
A-tier,
for sure."
S-tier.
I was like, "Yeah,
They'll
fucking
take-
bro.
But it's
Fucking good."
as
Actually, brain dead.
Yeah,
because
Like,
we've had an example of this recently. In Team PEPS had one good match, and then believed themselves to be S tier before coming
And then-
crashing back down to earth.
they were not.
The other one I get, the other cope that the Bleed fans have is they have the scrim bubble.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
it.
they're
like-
in the Korean scrim bubbles,
Is
and
anyone
therefore they'll
scrim- is-
upgrade.
any of these Korean teams scrimming the tall
the
TP team?
Bleed's manager was in my Twitch chat yesterday, and what they were saying was, and I quote, "We are not Korean level." So
Yeah, like All they did is they rocked up, they played cheese, they managed to cheese 2 maps out of them. I watched that series. It was a fiesta. Like that was not Bleed winning 2 maps. It was whatever their name was at the time losing to.
FTG,
You know.
yeah.
No, but like I really couldn't believe this shit, to be honest, because like this is the same Thai roster that I was like shit talking pre-World Cup, because it was like we beat these guys like in the qualifiers with Team Australia. And Team Australia didn't have imports to like fucking carry our asses like Showman does or whatever, you know? Like this team is wank, bro. Like, seriously wank.
And that's coming from our regional expert, the man on the ground.
Like I am really confident that we would assault this team. Like Showman with no scrims, we would hurt these Bleed Esports people. Like it would be rough. But like I don't know how they took 2 maps off fucking
I don't know how it happened.
Yi, dude. Like it was actual nonsense. Like you've got Alpha Yi and Violet back to the wall last fight overtime versus High Vision. To be fair though, Yoshinori 2K could be like the kind of the secret sauce, because he's like the Thai player that was like on the bench. He's like Patapan 2.0, you know, and he wasn't on the World Cup team because he's too young. So maybe he's the reason that all of this has come about. That could be the case.
Because I feel like the closest the Pacific region ever came before to like punching up to any of the top teams, never really any of the World Cups. Maybe like that talent team at Gauntlet that finished whatever it was, like
it was Patapan always. It was
Patapan plus like 3 Korean imports. You know, like it was like a Mango Giant CQB propping up.
Those guys were shite though. Like all of the Koreans on Paddy's team, it was like Muse. You know, Paddy was like
I think Gongora was good, but yeah, again, it's like Patty has been the only player to ever bridge the gap, you know, between.
And he also had a legendary World Cup performance. You're sleeping on the Pacific there too. He when he was like 12 years old or 13 years old or something, and he was just like he played like 20 different heroes at a World Cup.
Like Genji and Widow,
dominating China on Widow. He swaps the Wrecking Ball on Anubis and gets a 10k. Like it's just a 10 kill streak. Sorry, that's brutal.
I mean, as we've established, the roster lock is still open, so maybe there's one last ride for Patapan in all of this, and that could be their final chance. I think one thing that's worth saying as well, as much as we're happy to flame Bleed, I've not heard any of this from anyone within the Bleed team. Right, the Bleed team are not claiming to be Korean level. They're not walking around saying Toronto are going to get fucking smashed. Toronto better watch out.
It's like the black chats of the world spreading the propaganda, setting the expectations too high, you know?
Yeah, because that's what's true as well, right? Is Bleed are going to get shit on, but everyone's going to feel like it's going to be a big disappointment, which is just nonsense. Like if Bleed steal a map, good for them, right? Good for them. It shouldn't be looked down on as what happened to the golden years of Bleed.
Happy to be here, no? Like these are the teams that should be acting the way Kaluge is, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
the way Max is.
There's like, Kaluge.
All right, so get one left.
Is this the China team? The team from
This is LGD, so Team China, Hangzhou Spark, Russia's team, whatever you want to call them.
Presumably that'll be pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Probably S. Yeah. Not
I
S+.
think a lot of people have them as the 3rd best team in this tournament, but I think they're slightly overhyped. I think that this Spark lineup is very one-dimensional. I think they've had a year on the bench. I think like this team wasn't like that successful in the Overwatch League. Like surely like SSG and Sparks have had like pretty similar like successes in Overwatch League. Like I would say like in the last 2 years, maybe Spark like finished it like slightly ahead of us both times, but like they also hit playoffs pretty fucking hard. Like I guess like either one it was a Winston meta and one was a Winston, not Winston meta, but every Korean team mirrored you on Winston meta. So either way, they got to play Winston. But I think there should be that roster's obviously pretty fucking insane. But I think it's Cope that people think they're going to be the same tier as like the top 2.
I need to find a translator for that event, because when I'm there, I just need to find out like what does a fraudulent dad coach do on a full Chinese roster when he doesn't speak Chinese. I need to know.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you?
Of course.
Also, okay. So I was thinking about this, right? All right, okay. So here's what happened, okay. We scrimmed against Toronto last week and we mimicked what we expect hero bands to look like using our like powers of imagination. Okay?
Documents.
And actually, the fucking time between maps to ban a hero is so fucking stressful as a coach. It's actually quite fucking, because like there's actually so much to think about in that one choice. If you have to confirm with your team when you're in the dugout, but you don't speak the fucking language, you're actually fucked, by the way. Like, actually, if you have to, like, you have like fucking like 2 minutes to decide what map you're gonna pick, what roster you're gonna pick, what bands you're gonna do, and you can't communicate with your team, either Rush needs to go full dictator and just fucking tell them, or it's actually going to be a really big problem in the moments because he can't communicate with any of them.
Rush is going to choke up and ban Winston for Goose Way like it's so over.
But I guess that will be determined, because I think one thing that I was told about a lot of these rules is that we're expecting more confirmation of all the details of how this happens or how this will happen to come out. Because in theory, the length of the ban phase will be super important, right? Because you compare this to like Dota or League of Legends, where they do their bans at the start of the series or the start of the map. It's like a 25 minute segment, you know, in terms of like everyone has time to confer and discuss, like 5 minutes for each ban and all of this. So how much of it will be like that, and how much of it will be like the FACEIT system, you know, where it's just like 2 minutes, what map you're banning? All right, 2 minutes for the other team, 2 minutes to pick a map type thing, you know, because that will influence, I guess, the chance for error, essentially, if you're sort of forced to rush, no pun intended, to make the call.
What do you think of the tier list, Max? Yeah, how you feeling?
It's bothersome.
Bothersome?
What's bothering you?
The concept of a tier list or the actual
Yeah,
tier
no,
list?
it's the concept.
It's conceptually? Oh, okay.
Is the beer helping?
Okay, we've fallen so low. Is it?
We're not even close
Here we are.
enough to tolerate this.
We're one patch notes discussion away from just being what we hate, you know? Like,
well, I've actually got really bad news. The next segment is we're going to actually rank all the Mercy mythic skins.
Oh, no. It happened.
I actually thought you were serious for a second.
It's like I've opened so many Twitch streams during this recording, and everyone's title is talking about Pink Mercy. Like, fucking get real. Get real.
Dude, I saw... We'll cut that out. Will make me sound very
No,
manly.
do not cut that out. Can we actually get a replay of that?
Dude, I saw.
That was actually Chris's real voice. He uses a voice changer this entire time.
I saw a Flash tweet about fucking Pink Mercy where he's telling people to go touch grass outside, and I was like, fucking hell, like, no offense, but presumably like Flats isn't like this like fucking super grass toucher guy. But what do I know, you know?
What makes you say that, Chris?
Just the vibe I get, you know, from his negative
You're
vibe.
like an empath
Like
or
a guy that's
something?
always like.
Me, an empath.
He read the body language of Flats, and he was like, "Yeah, this guy
I
doesn't go
just
outside."
don't think he's hitting the bars and stuff, you know. Like that's just my feeling. But
Another Flats pog was done.
this time by Unter.
It was both of us both times, actually, for clarity.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
for posterity there.
Subtitles were wrong.
So before we move on to our normal slawl of finishing ones, I thought we'd ask Jamie some questions. So normally when we have guests on, we talk about the Overwatch League years, but we were struggling, and maybe just an indictment of mine and Chris's age and our memory, trying to think of what are the good times, what are the funny stories, what are the interesting moments on our 2 years on London. So that was mainly the question. Any good times?
So that's the question.
Any good times? Yeah, any good times or good memories?
I think maybe you guys should just consider the fact that the good memories in London might have just not involved you, you know. But
well, I wanted to ask you this question, Jamie. So me and Chris were talking about it, and I was like, obviously, because we have the trips to Hawaii, Toronto, and I was like, you know, and we've told the Striker story of him looking up. We told the Striker story before, so that was probably like the most Overwatch related one. But were there any stories or tales from the time on London that you think me and Chris wouldn't know about? Anything that sort of happened between the players, or
you guys wouldn't know about?
Yeah, because Chris is early to bed, and I was obviously sometimes remote as well. Was there ever a player-related thing that we were like, we shouldn't tell any of the boss men about this?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think maybe I remember before one of our Gladiators games, I think I told Chris this, to be fair. I remember before one of our Gladiator games once, I go downstairs at like 11. It's just Hadi in there, and he's streaming our replays to someone else that is in this call right now the day before we played them. he's actively streaming our replays to the coach of the team we're playing tomorrow, which I think I told Chris that. I can't think of anything that we really kept.
Did we win the official?
Did we win that match?
No, I think it was very early on. I think it was 3-1 Glads, if my memory serves me correctly.
If it makes you feel any better, it wouldn't have contributed to like our strategic approach.
No, I know. I know. Believe me, I know. But I don't know. I mean, you guys were quite involved in it all, no? I don't really feel like we did much without one of you involved usually. So I don't know if there's really anything hidden.
No, I remember something actually, like not. It was random, but like I remember Chris would always complain about how Sparky was a fucking degenerate. He was like Sparks, never sleeping enough, always just like a total
last
bum,
one awake,
late
late to scrim.
Yeah, last one awake, late to scrims, constantly a fucking degenerate. And then it's like after everything was over, after 2 years of living together in a house with him, he only then discovers that Hattie is just like the biggest in the whole world. Like Hattie will sit in bed at 2 a.m. watching TikToks on max volume. Like get up and like lumber to the bathroom and come back, wake Sparky up, and Sparky just being this like little Swedish cuck will just sit there and take it.
Just take it.
Won't tell Hattie to shut the fuck up. I'm trying to sleep. So instead, Sparky can't sleep all night long. And he's tired in the morning for the 8 a.m. review or something.
And then I'm blaming him. And because Hattie's up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym because he's been and Spark fucking just getting 2 a.m. TikToks. Hattie going up and down the stairs all the time. And Spark's the one that's getting abused. And never once does this guy say to me,
excuse. Yeah.
It's like, listen, I know I'm a bit fucking degenerate, but like, is there any chance, I could change rooms? He never explains this. He just tanks it for 2 years. It's actually insane.
They shared a room the entire time, and not once did Spark ever mention anything as in like this might be a problem or this might be affecting me, or just tank it and get through. Often go to the gym with Hattie at 5 a.m. as well.
Insane. insane, dude.
Resilience or cuckery, whatever you want to call it.
Spark would get all the fucking abuse, but it was only once we figured out the truth. It's like, oh, sorry, Spark. So if you're watching this, Spark, my bad, bro.
He's not watching.
Although Spark,
he's asleep.
Stepped through our scrims the other day.
He's asleep. He's not watching.
Wait,
to be fair, he slept through a scrim. He slept through a scrim.
Only one of them do that.
He slept through a scrim that you did book like in the morning. Like you this is more your fault. He's a degenerate, and you book a scrim the morning of.
I had to book a warm up this weekend, but I couldn't confirm it because it's fucking hard to book warm ups when no teams are scrimming. So I had to confirm it in like 10 a.m. the morning after. The warm up was 4 p.m. and people are telling me it's unreasonable to expect my players to be awake at 4 p.m.
You should know Spark at this point to know that if you haven't given him a reason to be awake at that time, he won't be.
I was talking to him the other day. He's got like a full reverse schedule now, right?
I think so.
Like he stays up all night. He goes to the gym at like 4 a.m. and then comes back and goes to bed at like 9 a.m. or something. I don't know why, but it works. I mean, the gym's quiet at 4 a.m., right? That's a good.
It's a little bit on you, Chris. You should know him by this point.
I mean, I couldn't do anything. Like the team didn't confirm till the morning.
You could have just put in the schedule that it might be there. Then what? So what? He wakes up an hour early. Ooh,
fuck it. We won the tournament. Who cares?
Is that really what Spark's living his life like now? Just upside down?
Yeah, I only found out the other day. It didn't really seem very Spark-like at all because he always used to stay up late in London. But as we figured out, he was staying up late in London because he had no option to go to sleep any earlier. So he might as well stay downstairs and enjoy his time away.
Maybe Hattie's just changed him. He's ruined him.
I think he's a well-established degenerate regardless. It's just
I think so too.
I thought his mother would have smacked it out of him when he went back home or something.
Yeah,
I guess some people's mothers don't do that.
I guess the person at fault here is Spark's mum, ultimately.
She liked my tweet the other day. I replied to
she's the nicest person in the world.
She's so supportive. She's actually in the stream all the time as well, watching all the content. She actually retweets all our Uncoachable episodes as well. I don't
think she knows what some things mean is the issue. Sparky posted a gym selfie and I replied saying that I was squeezing my hog to this and there was nothing you could do to stop me. And his mother liked the tweet.
Yeah, but even because she speaks fluent English. Like I've met her in person before. Her English is absolutely fine.
Fluency
Surely
is not
there's-
enough to understand.
Yeah, but surely there's. What else can it translate as?
Nice
Doesn't
tweet,
mean
Matt.
No, you're his mum. It's a coach that he's had since he's like 13 or some shit.
Very hard.
You're liking the tweet of him squeezing his tongue.
Fuck. Wow.
It's terrible.
Oh, fuck me.
No, she's a very approving mother.
Yeah.
Maybe too approving.
Yeah.
Maybe he should actually restrict some of the people he's hanging out with and spending his time with.
Yeah. No, he just needs to go to bed on time.
So that maybe brings me on to the next question, Backbone. Obviously, as we've learned about Sparker since going from London to SSG, his life has changed, probably mainly for the worse. Just a full degenerate now, dealing with people just harassing him and squeezing their hog to him on Twitter. How much has your life changed, London to SSG? Because it's mostly the same team.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I personally miss the social aspect quite a lot more than I thought I would. Maybe I should have seen it coming, like being in person and shit, being able to do shit with team outside of scrims. So maybe I'm missing that. But I mean, other than that, it's the same. Like scrims are the same. Like no one's really acting differently. I do think when you scrim online, it's easier to get mad, which is something that I've maybe had, you know. Like I think I'm doing right on that front though. But I think it's a lot easier online to get mad because it's voices in your ears. It's not living people in the room, you know. It's just the voices. But we've been fine. We've had one major argument this year, I think, you know. It's been pretty chill. I'm a bit of a hater of scrimming in the evening now after doing it
Like
in the morning.
we did
in
9
LA.
to 6 in LA,
Yeah.
basically. Like
9 to 6 in LA.
6 is the latest finish we'd ever had, I think.
Yeah.
Really.
9 to 6 in LA felt so much better because like you actually, it feels so because it's so hard to go out and do stuff sometimes. Like earlier in the day, because it's like, oh, if there's any risk of it not being completely on time, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then by the time scrims are done, it's like 10 p.m. or later on some days. And it's like, okay, well, it's not much I can go out and do. So maybe that part sucks a bit, like the times of the scrims. But other than that, it's a lot of the same.
You found it any different in terms of like your personal motivation to play or to commit?
Nah, I think for me it's similar. Like I don't think it's changed much. It's just more of the same, really, you know.
All right. But I think, as we've established, nothing interesting or fun ever happened on London. So
No, interesting and fun things happened. It's just they always involved you guys as well. I think my favorite London memory is when we were in Hawaii and that guy came up and said we'd both be his bitches in prison.
that was so fucking weird. So it's
Feels like a good read. A very good read.
I mean, he was probably right. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
I mean, he's probably right.
Like,
Let's keep it real, guys.
It was me and Jamie. We weren't winning that fight even
No.
2-on-1. We were in trouble. So we pop outside. It was probably like 4 a.m. It was the day we got reverse swept.
We'd been reverse swept. We'd been drinking all day. Everyone had gone to bed. X is like, I'm gonna go out. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll come with you. And we end up just sitting out there talking about shit for 3 hours. And suddenly it's 4 a.m. and this guy, we're right next to a police station, by the way. And this guy comes
No
up
police inside.
and tries to, he wants to freestyle battle rap.
He was
us.
nice originally. He was nice
Yeah,
originally.
that's
He
nice.
just wanted to rap against us. And I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, for those who are only audio listeners, Google a picture of me and Jamie right now. For those who can see us, you can see we probably don't look like we have a good freestyle in us. And I think he challenges us and we're like, we don't rap. And he was like, no, go on. And I was like, I really don't have a rap in me. So then he just raps at us and we're like, nice.
Yeah, we've
And then he
been
just-
really polite. We were nodding along.
I mean, we're doing everything possible to not get shanked at this stage.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We are placating to fuck. We are placating so hard right now.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't get me attacked, that's the voice line that you have to choose, you know? It's like one of those like Skyrim NPCs, but all of the options are fucking dangerous at this stage, you know?
Yeah, because like, and then for whatever reason, he's riled up about something. Like we're trying to placate super
Someone
hard.
did the wrong voice line. You
Well,
chose
no,
the wrong
yeah,
option.
only X had spoken, right? Because like he came up and we barely said anything, right? Like it was just like, oh, you want to rap? X was like, no, we don't rap. And I'm just like shaking my head, you know. So X was the only one that spoken. So we heard his British accent, and his battle rap was about X being British. And the entire time he was doing it, he was like buddying up to me, like, you know, like elbow budget, being like, fucking British, L. And then he's like, don't you hate the British or some shit? I'm like, not particularly, no. And then at that point, when he realized we were both British, that's when he got aggressive.
Yeah. I don't even remember what happened after that. Did he just kind of like wander off?
Or did
we go inside?
He took the piss out of my teeth.
Of the hotel.
He said we'd be bitches. He'd be his bitches in prison, and then he kind of just swaggered off into the distance to harass his next group of people.
Fair enough.
But other than that, couldn't actually recommend Hawaii more.
Yeah, other than that.
Great place, mostly great people. Not the best rappers, but you know, it can happen. I feel comfortable to say that through the safety of my keyboard now, where I'm very unlikely to encounter this gentleman again.
I actually got harassed another time in Hawaii for being British as well. Me and Landon, I think it was one of the other nights that we were definitely not drinking, and we'd gone for a walk because you guys went to a place that we can get into, so we were just walking around, and this girl hears my accent and starts going, oh, what do you do for a living? Like, she's super drunk. She's got this like boyfriend that's like carting her about, but her boyfriend, he's like tiny. That I could have taken this guy, right? So he's very much not interested in. I'm telling you, Chris. Me and Landon would have had this guy.
Landon.
No, this guy was tiny. This guy was tiny and he was skinny, right? I was bigger than him and I'm fat.
Or Harry,
okay?
I can get behind it. But
No. This guy is like a tiny old Sparky. You know, there's no muscle on this guy's body, right? He's struggling to pull his girlfriend away, and she's like, "Are you British?" And then she starts, and it's like, "What are you here for?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're here for this, that." And then she's like, "Oh, you shouldn't be here. You British people coming into Hawaii. This place isn't for you. This isn't for you at all." And her poor boyfriend is just. Yeah, I think so. Her poor boyfriend is just dragging her away, and then she gets away from him again and runs down after us to keep going at us. It was a weird night. Weird night.
Oh, also Landon isn't British.
No.
In this scenario Landon is American and presumably is allowed on the island, according to her.
Yeah. I don't know. Weird night.
All right. Okay. We're gonna do a quiz. And then the quiz is actually just going to be the same as fucking last week. Did you watch last week's episode, Jamie? All right.
Actually, which one was last one? Was it Crimzo?
When was last week? Was that like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, last week.
It was Crimzo round 2.
Okay.
Was that the one where you did like teams? You listed teams that they'd been on before. Was that one?
Exactly. The career.
That was a good format because you made it really biased.
I had a new format, but I tested it out, and it would be impossible for you to not get every single one instantly. So I scrapped it, and I had to.
Who did you test it out on?
Myself.
Oh.
Do you want me to
this guy just sits by himself, quizzing himself.
He makes.
I have a Discord channel called. I have a Discord channel called Quiz where I just do all my quiz stuff.
Wait, is this the Discord where it's just you? It's just your Discord, just you in the Discord.
Yeah. It's like a full schizo Discord. Like this fucking horrendous place.
Do you not have a schizo Discord, X?
No.
I have a
Dynamo.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a streamer Discord from 4 years ago that I just have channels that only I can see.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Player 1, O2 Blast, Soul Dynasty, San Francisco Shock, Soul Dynasty.
Is it Vindame?
Smurf.
It's Vindame.
Indie.
Good shout.
Ugh.
All right. Some of them.
Don't get on to start on main supports.
All right. Okay.
What are your feelings on Rack Attack?
All right.
You don't want to know, Jamie. Come on.
He's a nice guy, bro. Allow him.
Yeah. No, everyone knows that he's nice.
Why are you saying it was something venom?
Why is that a bad thing?
Because that's literally anyone anyone. All I've got to say about Rack Attack, he's a nice guy. Just nice. What about his skill? What about his ability, in a competitive environment? Next
question, Chris. Yeah.
Team Liquid, London Spitfire, Philly Fusion, Washington Justice, Philly Fusion.
Fury?
Fucking Commander X.
Fuck,
This
I
guy's
thought-
on the
Fuck,
ball.
I saw the wrong off tank. I thought Hopper. The wrong
Alright,
one.
okay.
Just locked in
Okay,
today. What can I
this
say?
one-
Different village bike, mate.
This one is a coach, okay? Coach career path. GC Busan, London Spitfire, Seoul Dynasty, Hangzhou Spark, New York Excelsior.
Oh, what's it? I know
He's
it. I
got
don't
it.
know his name. I don't know his name. Fucking is this Western culture, right?
Rangoon.
It is Changoon. But who gets the
I don't remember
point?
the name.
Surely Max gets the point. He said it.
Max remembered the name. I just
You just teed him up.
shouted.
That
I don't
was-
know the name.
Alright, okay.
You just
Okay.
gave me all I needed to answer the question. That's
Yeah,
cool.
cheers. All right, okay.
Are there any non-Koreans?
Yes, but not this one. Genji Esports, Washington Justice, O2 Blast, Toronto Defiant, Zero, Timeless, The Great Showman.
Opener.
Wait,
Finale.
he's on my fucking team.
Yeah, and X still fucking won.
God.
Again, it's biased towards Hunter, and it can't.
All right, okay. Here's a good one. You'll never get it. It's Western, okay?
All right.
Movie Star Riders, Misfits, Florida Mayhem, XL2 Academy, Toronto Defiant, Team PEPS.
I was going to say Manitou, but that's not right, is it?
There's no way
Not
FD
right.
God was on XL2 Academy, right? Or
Defiant.
Toronto. He was on Toronto either, yeah.
Defiant to
Defiant to Peps? It's a player?
Yeah.
It's not like no, it's not.
Is it a current Peps player?
No.
Okay.
Wait, can we have it again?
Okay, Movie Star Riders, Misfits, Florida Mayhem, Season 1, XL2, Toronto Defiant, Team PEPS.
Is he like Sharp or someone?
No.
Because it's that version of Toronto Defiant that was like Numlocked and Cruise and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who else was on that team?
But their most recent team was Peps, yeah?
Played Tracer.
Who was? I don't know. I feel like all I can think of now is
Shitty
Sharp.
place.
Yeah, all I can think of is Sharp as well.
Give up?
Yeah,
Who would have-
I give up.
Give up.
Go on. Give up.
Logics.
Oh,
Oh,
That was low hanging fruit.
thank
Mm.
Mr. Logics. XL2.
All right, okay. Two more. Okay. London Spitfire, Dallas Fuel, NRG Esports, San Francisco Shock, Philly Fusion.
Rascal.
Easy. Nice. Okay.
Nailed that to the cross. Good lord.
Okay. And one more. And if anyone gets this, it's worth 10 points. Bonus question. They will win
What?
the quiz.
Oh, what's the fucking point of the rest of the quiz?
Finally, Xavier gets a win. Finally, Xavier gets a win. And
I
you
was
guys
aren't gonna get it.
I was
You
in
guys
great
aren't going to get it.
form.
You guys aren't going to
Oh.
get it, so don't worry. Okay. Florida Mayhem, LA Gladiators. That's it.
That's it.
Only two teams.
Two teams.
What version of the LA Gladiators?
It's worth 10
Wouldn't you
points.
like to know?
No clues here.
I've got a couple ideas.
Then shout them out, mate. It's a quiz.
Is it locked if I get it wrong though?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
All right, Quizmaster's spoken.
I
Fucking
can't
spoken.
overrule his authority.
Florida into LA, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I'm trying to cheat and I can't find one still.
Googling it.
Wikipedia up.
He's
I
got to
can't find
Google
it.
which player was on Florida Mayhem then LA Gladiators.
Hey, get ChatGPT up; it'll give you the wrong answer.
Wait. I can do this, actually. I can cheat effectively. Don't worry, guys.
So
Who did this
it's
to
going to
him?
be Korean, right?
Oh, I know who it is. I know
so-
who it is. It's Sideshow.
Sideshow.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Remember he did the thing where he won the 1v1 against Jack.
Yeah.
He got signed to Florida Mayhem, and then Gladiators
For
traded
two
him.
30-day contracts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I guess nobody was going to get that. That's fair enough,
Told you.
I just got it. Hello?
No, I think if you Google it, I'm almost certain that
I think
violates
if you openly commentate your
Can-
cheating,
Can you show me the rules? Can you show me the rules where it says I can't look at Wikipedia?
Show my
Well,
Discord,
okay.
mate.
You get minus 10 points for cheating and then plus 10 points for getting it right.
Okay.
So I think X
Solid
won a
neutral
quiz.
score.
What a quiz.
Congratulations to X. 24 episodes in. That he could...
What's he bad? Shout out to our producer as well, who's just flaming us in chat right now for not being able to get that one.
Shout out.
No way you're
Without a
struggling,
doubt.
he says.
All right.
All right. It's a
On to
good
bigger
format, though.
things.
We'll agree with that. So now we're on to, and this might be, obviously, it was probably like our biggest section of the week last week. It wasn't last week. But Client of the Week was our biggest section. And it's been a while. I presume Chris here just has a list of French names he wants to submit for this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do like all of Team Peps for all their tweets, but we've kind of like covered most of that. I guess the same with Kaluj. Like he probably deserves a nomination, but we've covered it. Does anyone have anyone new?
The people that are taking EWC talent jobs and like making every excuse under the sun as to why they're doing it, other than just saying that they want the money, so that's why they're taking the job.
Yeah,
I think that's
agreed.
Client of the week, FACEIT for not promoting their own fucking.
Oh yeah, maybe
tournament.
FACEIT probably
Good
just.
shout.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, any of those.
Literally, can we spin a wheel to pick one?
Yeah, get a wheel. Put FACEIT, Peps, Kaluj on it, and spin a wheel.
Fuck it, just give it to Peps. It'll make me happier, you know. They
Yeah,
probably
no, give it
skipped
to the
this section
French.
anyway.
When in doubt, insulted.
All right.
Perfect.
A nice
Is
quick
that the
one this
world's
week.
shortest client of the week?
Yeah.
To be
Guess
fair,
so.
we kind of
The
called
whole
it
episode,
earlier, I
we'd
guess.
sort of,
Yeah.
we'd fleshed it out
Intense
really.
discussion. So yeah.
So then rank the guest.
Oh god.
He was all right.
Yeah, it was fine.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, guys. I appreciate that.
This one's not going to do Mr. X numbers, is it? You know, like this is just
Oh no, that's peak, Mr. Peak.
Mr.
It's
Peak.
Yeah.
Double your
I think
viewers or your money back.
throw it somewhere in the middle and be done with this episode. You know.
Yeah,
Fucking
no,
hell.
just fucking literally throw your cursor towards the center of the rankings and call it a day. I'm going to sleep.
Let's talk about that show.
Oh, the Jake Zinn. Wait, we have to talk about the Jake Zinn. You didn't put
Let's
the tweet
talk
up.
about it.
But we didn't talk about Jake being in your comms, nor did we talk about him having a fucking Zinn tin.
Well, yeah, client of the week,
bursting through
Jake,
his
actually.
pocket.
That guy would not come into our comms at all until we won. We had to win the whole thing to be able to speak to that guy. He's joining every other team's comms after their games. Refuses to speak to us.
What was his
Actually,
exact line
anti-establishment.
again?
If Chris
What
wasn't
would he
there,
say?
hey guys, it's Jake, I'm in your comms.
Hey guys, it's Jake. I'm in your comms. I would fucking.
But he didn't join ours at all until he was forced to.
Yeah.
Actually,
well.
actually because of Chris. Unironically, I think.
Well, yeah, they gotta keep me away from the limelight. You know, I'm a undesirable these days.
Respect to Jake for sporting a nicotine addiction like all the other adults in the world.
Yeah, fair enough. Dude, he's a real one for that.
Well, one thing you can do to support us is support the Patreon, as well as buy the shirt. Like our good friend, Johnny Reinforce, who continues to be our biggest supporter.
Thank you, Reinforce. Always
Thank you,
pleasure.
Johnny.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Maybe
Get next on
maybe
Plat Plat. That would be my advice to you, mate. That would be my advice.
You know, Johnny, as a token of appreciation.
John.
That guy had no interest being here.
I mean, he's literally like begging for bed. Like every section that went on, Unto was like, "Please get me the fuck out of here."
he was like Spectre in that finals match. Like, can we just end it? I need to go to bed. Like, just
he
end
was
it.
actually fine until the tier list, you know? The tier list is what ruined it. The tier list and the
That's
second
okay.
beer killed him.
We'll be able to get a few weeks, recover him, and we'll be able to get Unto out for another episode. You know? Not
Sorry,
easy.
for the audio only listeners, Unter has left the call.
All right.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Thank you, Jamie. Take care,
You're
everyone.
welcome. Thanks for having me.